By FantasyGuru.com on Bettor Sports Network.
Well, it's 6:30, sports fans. That means it's time for...
It's Monday.
I know it's Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
He hates Mondays. We can all relate.
The only cure I know for the Monday blues is...
Hi there, sports fans. Time to...
Just chill out, man.
Well, what's the next move? What's going to happen now?
Okay, ready to discuss sports.
Are you sure? I have the heart of a champion and the legs of a spectator.
Let's go.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
I don't know if anybody has ever wondered this, nor even questioned this next statement, but if you ever thought to yourself, well, I know what stays in Vegas, or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What about Indianapolis? What happens in Indy, does it actually stay in Indy? No, it doesn't. We learned that this morning. Things happening in Indy, things coming out of Indy, notably Ray Flowers. Discussions last week between Derek Carr and numerous other NFL teams in Indianapolis. Today, we find out Derek Carr's got a new home. He is headed to the Big Easy, headed to the Bayou, going to New Orleans and joining the Saints.
Yeah, making decisions where to play is I think we often boil it down to the field, but it's larger than that. It's comfort, it's front office, it's family, it's all these kind of things. I gotta say, from a football perspective, why? I don't know why Derek Carr goes there. He's going to lose his running back to legal issues, who's aging. He's got one great weapon in Chris Olave, but beyond that, Michael Thomas. I saw people getting excited about Michael Thomas. Don't stop. Stop. So I was, this started picking up momentum over the weekend. I got to admit, kind of surprised.
Yeah, it sounds like a 4-year deal. We haven't heard the money, but we do know New Orleans has been shifting money around. They are one of probably the 5 to 8 worst salary cap situations in the league. But as we have talked about and joked about here for many weeks on the show, that salary cap stuff doesn't matter. I mean, literally, Ray, the Taysom Hill thing, I'm sure you saw that. All they did was convert his contract. They changed the language and made it a signing bonus. And all of a sudden, they freed up like $7.5 million on Taysom Hill. Yeah. so that they're moving money around to bring in Derek Carr. And I agree with you, Ray. It's like ho-hum, a bunch of nothing. The backfield is an issue. I think that is certain. The receivers, they are an issue. They still really can't go out and get a whole lot to help them. Derek Carr is better than Andy Dalton, better than Jameis Winston.
No doubt.
Does this make the Saints a playoff team? I don't think so, right? The South is bad. It's kind of what the Buccaneers did last year. They were the best of a lousy division. Maybe that's what the Saints are aiming for this season.
Yeah, and when you're Derek Carr, what are you going to do? There's a handful of teams that have an interest and would be willing to pay you, and you kind of got to go where you're going to go, right? Or you can go the route of give me, $8 million to be your backup. He doesn't want to do that at this point, so I guess he chose the best of a motley crew. He goes to a team like you're saying that it's, they've got the salary cap issue. So what can they do to improve the team? Who could they turn to anyway to improve the team? I mean, they're going to have to spend big money in free agency, or they're going to have to be likely the team that's picking off these guys 1 year, $3 million, that's kind of a thing. They don't have a backfield right now. I mean, they don't have a backfield right now. Alvin Kamara's aging. He's not as effective as he used to be. He pled not guilty to the legal charge, but there's video of him. There's all kinds of stuff. Something's happening with that. Okay. And it's just a matter of when the league steps in, if the law itself doesn't step in. Mark Ingram's 100 years old. Dwayne Washington's 100 years old. David Johnson's 100. They have no backfield. And when you look at the receiving core, Michael Thomas, I can't count on him for anything at all. Nothing. They got Rashid Shaheed, Traquan Smith, Jarvis Landry's probably gone. And then their tight end's Taysom Hill. So I again, better for the Saints. Certainly an improvement under center. But this basically ends up for me, Kyle, with Chris Olave looking like a winner, and Derek Carr looking at 4,100 yards and 23 touchdowns again.
Well, if nothing else, Ray, for those providers that have to choose, maybe they will finally just say Taysom Hill's a tight end. Maybe I don't because he's not getting it. I don't know. Will the Saints still do the QB thing with Taysom Hill now that you have Derek Carr? It kind of seems weird, but maybe it's still a possibility with this franchise.
I assume they still will. again, this has been something we've talked about for Taysom Hill is a weapon, and he is. And you and I make fun of him deservedly so because of the contract and because of the way people view him in the fantasy game. But he is a legitimate weapon. I don't know why you would go out and bring in Derek Carr to be your quarterback and give him a 4-year contract to have him play 86% of the snaps each week. Like, I don't get that. But I think they probably do still involve Taysom Hill, yeah.
Well, and they are sitting, talking about their offense and their backfield. Of course, we're all getting set for the draft here in about 5-6 weeks, whatever it is. They've got the 29th pick in the first round. I think they also have number 40 overall. So 2 of the top 40. Ray, that is prime real estate for a running back. Into the first round, early second round. I would suspect they're going to that position with one of their 2 picks. And there's not a likelihood of this. I'm not saying, but, we've seen running backs fall before. And I know everybody says Bijan Robinson is the bee's knees. He'll probably go somewhere in the late teens, if a team really falls in love with him, maybe in the mid-teens. And Ray, maybe it's New Orleans. Maybe New Orleans packages a couple picks and moves up. So I would look at them. We all care about where do running backs end up. That is a team with New Orleans, Ray, who now has Carr, Olave. You add a third young piece, maybe the first or second running back off the board. With Kamara's situation, we may see a lot of playing time for that running back that they could add. So that is a team I would pinpoint right now as saying they're probably in the market on one of those first 2 picks or even a trade up to get one of the top running backs in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think that definitely is something I'll have to consider. And for those people, I kind of glossed over it. Alvin Kamara's got the issue off the field where there was the fight and everything like that. He, the other day, last week, said not guilty when he went to court, even though there's video of him involved in the altercation. So we'll see how it plays out. But they have no idea what's going on there. I mean, Kamara could end up going to jail. He could end up paying fines. The league could suspend him for 3 weeks, 8 weeks, the whole season. Like, we have no idea how it's going to go. And he's an aging player that they've got to start planning the future for anyway around. So it's very logical to think that the Saints will take a running back at some point in the draft. It certainly is a need, whether they do it in the first round or not. We'll see. But as you said, that's an area where teams don't get smashed anymore. You take a running back in the first 5 picks, it's different. That's the way it used to be. It's not the way it is today. You take a running back at the end of the first round, people don't look at it that bad.
And the beauty of our friends over at the NFFC, Ray, is even though it's March, we have ADP. They're doing drafts. And at quarterback, and this was entering today when Derek Carr did not have a team. We didn't know where he was going to be. Derek Carr, 20th off the board. Ray, I guess it's always better when you know who he's going to be with. Some of that uncertainty probably drops him just because you don't know. Maybe he moves up 5 slots, you think, overall? Or is that too much of a jump with this move to New Orleans? Again, we haven't even gotten to free agency or the draft and cuts and all that. So maybe this is a very different team come August. But he probably, for lack of a better term, mid-level QB2. Is that what we're looking at with Carr?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because of the lack of weapons, because of the way they've traditionally run their offense, I think it's fair to, again, middling's not the right, as we sit here right now, mid-level quarterback 2 is fine. Is it I got to get if I'm doing a draft now? No. Is it on my target if I'm drafting now? No. But sure. Again, there's a lot of crappy quarterbacks. There's a lot of spotty quarterbacks. There's still teams that are going to be drafting quarterbacks. Those teams will likely be playing those rookies at the start. We have situations where there's still some uncertainty. So, yeah, I think that's fair. I'll also say that for some unknown reason, my Dynasty League set the draft order over the weekend, which I was laughing at. It's like, guys, I always say football has made everyone think it's important 365 days a year, and it absolutely has. It's unbelievable. People are stoked about next season. We haven't even started the baseball season this year.
This is for rookies, right? That you're setting
yes,
that.
Correct.
Okay. Well, what'd you get, Ray? Did you get a good spot?
I got 12th out of 15. I don't know how 12th out of 16. I don't know how I always end up at the end. It's somehow always, it always works out that way.
Well, now, Ray, the good news is you have 2 months. Right. Now that you know where you're drafting, you have 2 months to figure out a plan from that 12th spot. Maybe you can trade up, Ray. Now that you have 2 months to work the phone lines and email, maybe with all that extra time before this draft, you'll be able to do something and change your predicament.
Maybe. And you know what? Probably I'll say not. This. Let me look at this real quick. I don't think I finished 4th in record last year. I don't even know how we determined the actual draft day order. Let me see here. What were the standings last year? Standings. Here we go. Oh, they've already been reset. I'll have to find it during the break here, but I don't think I finished fourth. Maybe I did. Maybe I had a better season than I thought, Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But there's the news this morning. Derek Carr joining the New Orleans Saints. And again, that's being reported as a 4-year deal. That is really the first chip to fall in the QB market. And tomorrow is like franchise tag deadline day. So a guy like Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson, we'll get more information on them. Obviously, the NFL Combine was taken over by all things Anthony Richardson with Florida. We're going to talk about that a bit later in the show. We are still awaiting for an answer to emerge from that guy in Green Bay. We cannot mention his name. Ray and I had an agreement on that. So we're still awaiting that. But the first chip has fallen. And that is one team, New Orleans, that is out of the market. There were other teams looking at Derek Carr. So maybe Carr just said, I'm not going to wait around for Aaron Rodgers, Ray. Maybe he became like us. He got tired of waiting and said, I'm just going to go for it. Screw that. I'm not going to be beholden to the spirits and carnal intuition of Aaron Rodgers and whenever he decides to let us know what he wants to do.
Yeah, players shouldn't wait. Teams shouldn't wait. You got to go. You can't get shut out.
They said his name.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Yeah. You can't get shut out though. I mean, and this is the thing. Like, are you going to end up with Carson Wentz as your quarterback? Like, you got to make moves. And I mean, we're a month away from the draft. We're still waiting. Like the darkness retreat was supposed to settle this.
Yeah.
It's not settling anything.
That guy said at the end of the season, I'm not going to drag this out. Yeah. It's May 6th. So that's 2 months.
Yep.
March 6th. Last year, I think he let us know his future around this time. So, Ray, he said he's not going to drag it out like the year before. Here it comes. Yeah. Still dragging it out with this guy. It's incredible what he thinks of him.
And again, not about this. None of this is about the football player. It's about everything else. I don't know why an organization would do it. I don't. Yeah. You bring in Tom Brady, you get what you get, right? You bring this guy in. I mean, by week 1, he might hate half the team and have alienated the other third. And 6 people like him. The water boy doesn't. I mean, it's like, I don't know why anyone would do it. I don't get it.
It's questionable, to say the least. Okay, we are off and running on this edition of Lunch Money. When we give you the big news there with Carr, that's come out in the last hour or so, 90 minutes. So Derek Carr on the move, our first big free agent signing, if you will. Of course, he wasn't a true free agent. He was released. So Raiders made that decision. And as noted, franchise tag tomorrow. There are certainly some big decisions in Baltimore, big decisions in New York. We will talk about those coming up a bit later. We'll save most of the football for hour 3, NFL Combine stuff and all that. Our focus, as is usual here in the month of March, will be a lot of baseball. Before we get to anything, though, it's time for our lunch menu where we lay it all out for you. We give you everything that you're going to get over the next 3 hours. Ray, lead us off with our appetizer. You had a long weekend of, following baseball auctions and drafts, and obviously spring training news and injury news, doing a lot of writing. What do you got for us in your appetizer?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was looking at one of these, I was looking at some ADP and draft boards and everything like you're talking about. And one player who is someone I want to talk about, one player who we talked about a lot the last 2 years, a lot. This year, Now, this guy is a former first-round draft pick. Prior to the 2021 season, so heading into 2021, Baseball Prospectus and MLB Pipeline had him ranked as the 4th best prospect in baseball. Baseball American Baseball Prospectus had him 4th. Pipeline had him 6th. So all 3 of the major grading sources had this guy as a top 6 prospect in all of baseball. He went out and stunk as a rookie. He went out and stunk in year 2. I'm talking Jared Kelenic of the Mariners. Now, again, all the 3 top grading services that we publicly utilize all said he was a top 6 prospect in baseball, not with his team, not at his position, in baseball. And he has stunk. He has. He's changed his approach. He's changed his swing. He's gone up, down. There's been all the back and forth, bravado versus overconfidence, all this kind of stuff. Well, Kelenic showed up this year. Taylor Trammell got hurt too, which helps Kelenic have a beat on the starting spot. He showed up this year in good shape, as he always does, but with a new approach. He's standing up a little straighter than he used to. He's hitting to center and left field the opposite way. He's not trying to jack everything. He's hit 4 home runs already in spring and 17 at-bats. Everyone is really pleased about the way he's synced up his swing. There were a lot of times in the past where his upper half and his lower half weren't in conjunction with one another. So he's very uneven. Everything's moving together. Everything's up the middle. He's letting the ball travel to him. He's powering the ball to left center field. This is the guy that everyone said was there. This is the guy that everyone expected him to be. Because when he came up, Kyle remembers this. If you've been with us, we've talked about he was supposed to, from day one, hit. Now, maybe it was 270 with 19 home runs as a rookie, but he was supposed to hit, and he didn't do it. He's hitting now. He's crushing now. Mentally, he seems in a good place. Again, mechanically, he's in a really good place. He seems focused. And Kyle, his ADP is starting to rise. I think it's like 280 now, starting to rise a little bit. And I thought it was worth talking because we see this a lot. We spend so much time. Jordan Walker's the guy everyone's talking about now. Jordan Walker, with good reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, all these guys. Once the guy has the chance and doesn't make it, Kelenic, they fall back. People forget him. They ghost him in the fantasy space. We got to remember that Jared Kelenic is an elite talent who just may have figured out that he is an elite talent.
Well, look at the other guys he's going with, Ray. This is right now. I say right now. Let me shrink this down to the last couple of weeks. We'll shrink it down to spring training here. So we'll say, what'll that be? We'll go with like February 20th to now.
Okay.
Pretty well the start of camp, when everybody arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And what is Jared Kelenic doing? Well, he was 70th overall if you just look at rankings. Now, Ray, you kind of total up, and it's not going to be anything dramatic because it's hard to make giant leaps here. But Jared Kelenic in the last 3 weeks is 63rd. So it's a move up, and you mentioned 280, about 270. But if he keeps doing this, then you're going to have maybe 260, 250, which all makes sense. Because the other guys he's going around, Ray, I mean, is somebody going to say, I'm more excited for Jorge Soler than what could be for Jared Kelenic, or I'm more excited for Austin Hayes than what could be Jared Kelenic, or I'm more excited for Trey Mancini. Like, this is how the mind works of a lot of drafters. Why would I go with this old guy who, I know what he is, and it's nothing too exciting. I've never won a league because of Trey Mancini. Kelenic is going to be a lot more attractive. And so all of this is going to push him up. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. Crazy good talent, super talent. We've seen that for years. Hasn't worked in the big leagues at all. It's been terrible in the big leagues. But you always want to make this bet on talent. And if he's if he's going as the 60th outfielder in a 5 outfielder league, Ray, that's an outfielder 5. I'm all in on that. And I don't know if that's going to work for a lot of people. If you're in a smart room, Ray, let's say it's 12, 15 teams, he's probably going as an outfielder 4. I bet somebody will pull that trigger despite what the ADP may say. Because I love him as a 5, Ray. I don't hate him as a 4. And it's risky. Because, again, we don't really see any signs in his big league results that he's that guy. But I think it's something you can absolutely make a stretch for, is saying, you know what, I'll make him an outfielder 4. I'll make him the 46th outfielder off the board. That's a jump of ADP, but I don't mind it considering his talent level.
Yeah, and remember, he has been brutally bad in the big leagues, right? He's played 147 games. His OPS is 589. He's been worse than Madison Bumgarner. He's been terrible. Okay. And in those 147 games, still has 21 home runs and 11 steals. So could he go Adolis Garcia and hit 240 with 28 home runs and 25 steals? No. Could he go Adolis Garcia and hit 240 with 28 home runs and 14 steals? Yeah, he could. And that's to your point. It just takes him walking in and playing consistently to be effective. And unlike a lot of guys that are in that 25 to 30 home run range, which is probably where he's at if everything comes together, he's got the ability to steal 10, 15 bases too, which is, again, is something we're all searching for. I think I wanted to hit mostly on the mindset of, again, you've got 12 months to prove, you got 6 months, 3 months, 4 months to prove yourself. And if you don't, you're out. We're moving on to the next guy. And this is what you and I talk about all the time when people draft rookies every year. It's like, there'll be another guy. You say it all the time, Kyle. There'll be another guy next week. There'll be another guy next month. There'll be another guy next year. And people are on that roller coaster, that train, and it just steamrolled over Kelenic, who again for 2 years has been terrible, but he's got an opportunity here. He's got talent here. There's been production around the crap he's even offered at the big league level. People, if you're talking about him being your 5th outfielder in a mixed league, I don't have a problem with that either.
And it's a good lineup, and I think experience helps, even if it's bad experience. I think it helps. mean, honestly, Ray, the Mariners aren't going to just quit on Jared Kelenic.
No.
You know, they're not going to send him back to them. They may bench him, you know, and try to figure it out, but he still has, in effect, like 5 years under contract with this team. If they wanted to trade him, right? If you put Jared Kelenic out on the trade market right now, 20 teams in baseball would call you in the first hour.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Sure.
And so if major league teams are willing to take that chance, that risk, all of that, I think fantasy owners should be willing to take it. Now he's going to be in the bottom of the order. Maybe he can hit his way out. So you don't, and again, you know, you spend 10 minutes talking about Jared Kelenic, Ray. I don't want people thinking, well, Ray Flowers said he was going to go 30-20 this year.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that. It's just, you take a shot on this talent, you take a shot on this game, and the price is not silly. Right now, the price is not silly. Jordan Walker, price getting a little sillier. We'll talk about him coming up in just a bit. From Ray's appetizer to mine, mentioned that we had a lot of auctions this weekend. This was the weekend of Labor, the League of Alternative Baseball Reality. They've been doing it now for 30 years. I think this was the 30th anniversary. USA Today Sports Weekly brings in a bunch of bright minds and well-known people each and every year. And this past weekend, they were down in Florida. And Ray and I were lucky enough to cover it with SiriusXM. We've been doing that for, over a decade, I guess, Ray. We've covered pretty well, I think, every Labor auction. This one was covered remotely. They were in Florida. You and I were in the studio kind of breaking things down. I want to focus on the auction that went down Sunday. And I was actually helming this. This was a mixed league auction. And I think Heather's got the money cost here, because I know everybody always cares. Oh, what the rich guy, you know, how much did the top guys go for? We'll start with pitchers here. And you're going to see all the names you expect to see, you know, all the usual, you know, suspects of Cole and Scherzer and Verlander and all these guys. There they are. I think what's notable here, Ray, and again, for those who aren't familiar with this, everybody, it's a 12-team league. All 12 teams get $260. They got to get 23 guys with that $260. Ray, what caught me off guard is $30 is your max starting pitcher. And you may say, well, that makes sense. There's a lot of starting pitching. In years past, Ray, we've seen the mid-30s, the high 30s, the low 40s.
Mm-hmm.
We see this all the time. And here you don't see that. You see Garrett Cole at $30. And then you see a lot of good pitchers. But what is that last number, 23? You're seeing 10 guys there from 30 to 23. And there were a load of pitchers in the 22 to 18 range. But I thought, Ray, that the note that I grabbed there is Garrett Cole is one of the first starting pitcher names out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is always worthy, I believe, if you're in an auction league, and this would be prep for anybody who's getting ready for auction leagues, like, okay, you want to set the market because every market's different. Every auction is different. The way to set the market is you throw out a name like Garrett Cole and you find out immediately, what's that top name going to cost me? What's it going to run me? Maybe you say Corbin Burns, because you see Burns and Cole, they're 1-2, 2-1, however. But you throw out one of those names there, Ray, and you say, okay, whatever that guy goes for, that pretty well sets the ceiling. And I think when Cole came out, for whatever reason, he stopped at 30. But Ray, for those who aren't very familiar with auction leagues, and I bring this up for those maybe getting ready, once that big name's out and it sets that level, it's very unlikely we go beyond that level. Mm-hmm. Maybe desperation would kick in, and you can microcosm this down to relievers and middle infielders and outfielders and shortstops. But at pitching especially, I kind of like throwing that big name out early and seeing where he lands, because that then tells me, what am I going to have to spend to get this ace? And when I saw 30 yesterday, I knew, man, this is going to be great, because I can get probably 2 aces for like $45 total. I can get those 2 aces. We're going to talk hitters in a bit, but first, your thoughts on the pitching, Ray, and anything you might see. Also, you can note we've got the owners, the guys who picked up those pitchers in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm going to continue actually working. I got some hair on my microphone. Sorry. Continue working with the podcast over at fantasyguru.com. And actually tomorrow, my podcast comes out talking about auctions. So it's like 45 minutes just straight talking about auctions. People can look for that. And one of the things that I mentioned in that podcast, I recorded it yesterday, was the fact that you get too caught up in the number that's on your sheet sometimes. And this can take many forms. One, people can say, my guy's $30. He went to 31. I can't do it. Now, you can go $1 or $2 extra. You can do that. That's always okay, especially early in a draft for the big name players. Secondly, and more directly to what you're talking about here, The number on the page is just in an ideal scenario. And what draft is ideal? Like what draft is going to go exactly how you thought? And the answer is none of them. So you see these numbers, that is incredibly low. I don't think anyone would look at this going in. And I didn't, you were on the broadcast yesterday. I wasn't. I don't think anyone going in thought the top pitcher would be $30. They probably thought 35, 36, maybe 37, right? It was 30 yesterday. So each room is different. So that's why it's so important to understand player pools and all that, but understand that each room is different. The exact same group of people could do this draft next Sunday, and Cole could go for 35. It just all depends. The number there that I saw is artificially low, given what the cost is universally. I bet, again, checking people's draft pages, they just chose in this draft room to go with their money in other directions. So then it becomes a balance of, did we overpay for catchers? Did we pay extra for speed? But it's fascinating because I don't think anyone would have predicted the price points being that low. And I mentioned this earlier, actually, with labor when we were doing the AL and the NL, especially in the NL version. The price on pitchers was lower than I thought. I thought it was artificially low. And I guess we saw a continuation of that yesterday.
Well, and again, to your point, like Cole going, if he goes 35, 36, or maybe Burns goes 35, 36, that changes all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I point that out for anybody. USA Today puts out a big, I think a week and a half from now, they'll go on newsstands and they'll have a write-up on labor. And people will look at this, especially those who are really into auctions. And they'll say, oh, Garrett Cole 30. And you need to understand that's that particular room. That may not be your room. And so that is one of the difficulties of auctions, is adjusting on the fly, where you think, oh, Garrett Cole's worth 34. Wow, he went 30. I got more money all of a sudden, because I'm not going to have to go to 32 to get Aaron Nola. I'm not going to have to go to $30 to get Shane McClanahan. All of a sudden, I've got $6-7 extra dollars because of where Garrett Cole landed. Now, switching it over to the hitters, and we've also got our top 10 here on the hitting side. At the top of the list, you'll see the name Ronald Acuna, $47. Aaron Judge, he's going to pop up here. I think Judge was at 44. We saw a handful of guys in the 40s. There it is. What stood out to me here, Ray, is, again, you set a level. It's a little more difficult to set a level with the hitters because there are varying viewpoints. I think of pitching, it's one of two guys. It's Burns or Cole. On the hitting side, Ray, it can be Acuna, it can be Judge, it can be Ramirez, it can be Turner, it can be Soto, it could be Julio Rodriguez. Like, there's a few more other guys that you're not necessarily setting the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aaron Judge came out first here, but he did not land at the highest number. Aaron Judge, and not the first overall, but he was the first big name, $44. When I saw that, Ray, I kind of thought, well, maybe we get to 45, but I thought it would be like a Trey Turner getting to 45.
Right.
Acuna, maybe. Turner didn't come close to 45. Acuna went to 47. So this was a little more difficult because there are probably a half dozen names that can set the market, whereas with pitching, it's two. But the other takeaway here is you see, big prices. You see from NBC Sports Edge, Shelley Vergstrate. We had Shelley on our program yesterday. She went up high for Jose Ramirez at 42. She went up high for Juan Soto at 39. She went up high for Freddie Freeman, was at 36. She got three of the quote-unquote top 8 players, if you will. In years past, Ray, say, oh, gosh, how'd she fill it? And man, did she have enough money? And some people might look at that and say, wow, you had $260, and wow, you spent 130 of it on 3 guys, half your budget. I don't love Shelley's team, and people can find this online, hunt down the labor connection. I don't love the team. The team's fine. I don't love it. But, Ray, what I wanted to point out is you can spend. Ryan Hallam spent like crazy. Ray Murphy, who finished second in this league, spent a lot of money. I like Ryan's team a whole lot, and Ryan spent money. Ray, there is so much talent in a mixed league that what I wanted to point out is if you want to spend early or get a certain name, spend up for him. Like if you say Juan Soto, I got him listed at $38. You go into your auction, say and you get into the bidding, all of a sudden he's at 42, and you're like, oh my God, this is just too much. I can't. Go 43, go 44, go 45. Unless you're getting to like 48, 49, $50, which I don't think there's any hitter that should really be going for $50 this year. And maybe me personally, I might say 45 is kind of my limit. But if you've got one of those stars penciled in as someone you want and you say he's 39 or you think you'll go as high as, be willing to go 45 and really don't worry about the the repercussions, if you will. Because Ray, there are guys to be found in a mixed league. It's different in mono, different in NL and AL only. It's a little different there. It's a struggle to find guys at the end. But in a mixed league, Ray, this is a 12 team, 23 players on each team. It is so easy to still find that money at the end. You shouldn't be fretting if you go like $3 or $4 above what you thought Aaron Judge was worth or Jose Ramirez. You can make it up later.
Yeah, it's really interesting to put it out there, talking about the different allocation of funds. I have the top pitcher in the rankings over at fantasyguru.com for $5 more than was spent. And I have the top hitter for $7 less. So that's what we're talking about. Like in the end, it's almost like we're $1 difference, right? In the end, but it's just a different allocation. And that's why, again, the number on your paper is in a real world scenario. No, it's in a vacuum. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I think that, and this is something that I can speak directly to because most of my career as an auction guy, I was more of the balanced approach kind of guy. And the answer to this, and again, I address this on the podcast that I'll have up tomorrow at Fantasy Guru. Most of the time, I was the balanced approach guy. Now, you have to play your room, and you have to understand what that means. You have to understand the league size, the dynamics of everything that's involved. And when you're talking about doing a 12-team only league, like I had some people comment on it because we're doing it late at night and everything, and people are like, I don't even know who these players are. Like it's versus the mixed league where you know who everyone is, right? Yeah. The replacement level is non-existent in an AL only league. You go to the waiver wire, the guy that has the most at bats the last week has got 9. Like there's nothing there. You go to a mixed league waiver wire and you got guys hitting 300. You got someone who hit 2 home runs, someone who stole 2 bases. Like they're all over the place. So you have much more of a higher floor, obviously, because we're talking about using the entire player pool. How does that work in the real world? Well, as I did this and thought about it more and more, I started to trend toward bigger is better. And it's funny, we were talking right before the show, right as I got to the point where I was going full hog stars and scrubs in some of these formats, I ended up getting moved around because of time changes and everything. And so I'm not in this auction. I'm in the mixed league, that kind of a thing. So I haven't really got to go, as I jokingly said with you, full Derek Van Riper. But, it depends how your draft is going, your room. But being super aggressive, and again, going the extra $1 or $2 on a top guy, getting 2 or 3 or 4 of these, there's still options out there. And if the more people that do this, the stars and scrubs-ish approach, the more that do it, the more elevated the top guys' price points are, but then everyone else drops, right? And all those $10 guys are $6 guys. All those $6 guys are $3 guys. And if those $6 players are going for half price and the $10 players are going for half price, you got a pretty good chance if you make the right choices to have a team that's pretty darn good, even if you got a lot of cheaper players toward the second half of your roster.
Well, and we say stars and scrubs is kind of that catch-all. I want to reiterate, I don't think there are many scrubs on these teams in a mixed league. I get it. You may not think Will Myers is all that great, but like in this auction yesterday, he was $3. Yasmani Grandal looked long in the tooth last year. He went for $1. A guy like Avisail Garcia, nobody gets excited about him, but he's $1. Plays every day. He hits the baseball. Seth Brown had almost 30 home runs last year, $3.
Yeah.
So like we say stars and scrubs, I don't want people to think that means, those scrubs are going to play 2 games a week.
Yeah.
I mean, the scrubs are starters,
Yeah. It's not Austin Slater at all. It's not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, league specific. Yeah. You're going to have scrubs. If you want to go big, like if Shelly, who was in this league, Ray, if she went out and got 3 $38 players in a NL only, she's going to have some serious scrubs. She's going to have zeros at certain positions. But in mixed league, it's zero issue. I mean, you can backfill very easily in a mixed league.
Well, you look at some of the names here that are in the reserve rounds, guys that weren't auctioned off, and again, 15-teamer, right? We don't know how it's going to turn out, but Liam Hendricks, nothing. Bryson Stott was much better in the second half last year, went 10-10, qualifies at 2 positions. Taijuan Walker, yeah, it's not great to pitch in Philadelphia, but come on, Taijuan Walker's a really good arm. You look around at Josh Rojas, stole 30 bases last year, he qualifies at multiple positions. Eric Lauer, 175 strikeout guy. Ha-Seong Kim, arguably the best offense in the National League with the Padres. He's going to play daily. And so there's Miles Mikolas. There's a lot of good guys that went in the reserve rounds that people didn't even bid on. So, yeah, it's it's about choosing the right people and the right mix and all that. But I always love doing auctions. We encourage people all the time to do them. I know they're much less frequently done than the snake draft, but they're a lot of fun. You can create the team you want. And like you're saying, scrubs is the term we affectionately use, but it's just, it's a non-exciting full-time player. It's just too long to say that, right? So we just
maybe it's just called going top heavy. I don't know.
There you go.
You know, that's really what you're describing, but it's a lot more catchy to say stars and scrubs. And again, in league specific, if you want to go stars, you're going to have scrubs. Don't get me wrong, but in mixed leagues, totally different. And so that was specifically for Labor Mix. That's the one that I was dealing with yesterday. If you're interested, Labor, for those who don't know, League of Alternative Baseball Reality. That's what it stands for. Been going on for 3 decades now. LABR is kind of how you'll find it if you do a Google search. So you can do LABR Mixed League auctions or NL auctions, AL auctions. You can see those draft boards. So check that out if you are getting ready for auctions and kind of want to see what is going down. Now, moving along in our lunch menu, our main course for today, we introduce you to all things third base. That is going to be our position to focus on this week on the show. We've already gone through catcher first and second. So third basemen are on the list here. And Ray, we got some studs at the top at third base. I mean, really, you got 3 guys who might end up in the first round at third base with Jose Ramirez, Bobby Witt, and probably Manny Machado might sneak in there in some leagues. He's kind of on that fence of first round, second round, but certainly 3 absolute stars at this position.
Yeah, and then you still got a Hall of Famer like Nolan Arenado there too. So
who finished third in the MVP?
Yeah. Arguably the greatest all-around third baseman of all time. This is a position it's really interesting. It's kind of like second base too, because you've got the youngsters, you've got the stable career guys, you got guys toward the end, batting average, power. It's a good position. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, no. Well, one big question, we always kind of begin the week with that one big question at each position. We will focus on Alex Bregman. Can he get back into that world, that spot of the Arenados and the Witts and the Machados of the world? He's kind of also in that. Is he going this way or that way in his career? So we'll talk about Alex Bregman in our one big question there. Side dishes for today, a ton of spring notes. A lot of things to update you on from the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, even now into Monday. We got some more action firing up today in both Florida and Arizona. We have injury updates on Yordan Alvarez, Jake DeGrom, as well as Vlad Guerrero Jr., all huge names. So we'll tell you where they stand. We will spend the week here on Lunch Money talking NL East today. Take a look at all the odds for the preseason with that very competitive division. A lot of football. Again, Derek Carr signing with the Saints. That probably changes the plans for a few other teams. So we'll hit you with some of the decisions there. Franchise tag deadlines tomorrow. So we'll tell you what's going on with guys like Daniel Jones, like Lamar Jackson, maybe even a Saquon Barkley. Maybe some tight ends could get the franchise tag. Additionally, the NFL Combine, it's still going on. I think they've got the one last day here with some workouts and such. People are starting to leave Indianapolis, but the big news from the weekend was all things Anthony Richardson. And Ray, I can only chuckle knowing that you're on Twitter, and you probably had to deal with all the bloviating about Anthony Richardson on Saturday, right?
Well, you can't deal with it now because Twitter's API is busted.
What's that mean?
Twitter's not working properly.
Good.
Yeah. So I've been looking down. I've been trying to figure out what's going on here.
Maybe Anthony Richardson broke Twitter, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But we need our information about these guys. I had a blissfully removed from negativity weekend when it comes to social
media. You were away from the combine. You were busy with labor.
I was busy with labor, yeah. So I didn't really deal with too much. That was kind of nice.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your vacation because you have to deal with the combine today. We're going to talk about it coming up a bit later. Bet du jour today. Spring training, baby. Spring training baseball. I have made one spring training bet, and I'm 1-0. So, Ray, I've got a second one.
Okay.
Here in about a half hour. Got Boston hosting Detroit. Boston's still in Fort Myers. I think they are. Is that right? I don't know. Wherever Boston's playing spring training. I kind of lose track. These teams are constantly moving. Anyway, they're hosting Detroit. I'm going to take Boston for the win. Straight up money line win. Minus 180. Okay? Bet du jour is always picking a favorite. A bet we like. I'm going this way because probably none of you know this. But Boston is the only undefeated team in spring training. Boston is 9-0. They've got Chris Sale on the mound today. I took a look at Detroit's lineup. Even if all the regulars were in there, it's not very good. But they only have 4 regulars for Detroit. So I'm feeling Boston's going to move to 10-0. Beyond that, the Red Sox are plus 26 in scoring differential in spring. Nobody else in the Grapefruit League is even plus 20. So the Red Sox are plus 26. Detroit, minus 11. Detroit's a 500 team thus far in spring camp. Yeah, I know it's spring training. Who cares? But we are here to make a bet. We are here to bet on the Red Sox improving to 10-0. They can get that win against Detroit. So minus 180 is the call there. Dessert for the day. What kind of man or woman has so much money that they're willing to pluck down $500 million on really a sailboat? 500. Now, there's an engine on this thing, but it's a fancy sailboat. Ray, let's say you're the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
You got a problem spending $500 million on a really superstar kick butt sailboating yacht?
Yeah.
You would have an issue with that?
I would. I'm pretty sure without looking into the market that the $25 million sailboat would probably be pretty badass. So yeah, I don't really think I need to go 500 million. No.
That's a fair point. You can still get a very rock star level yacht.
Yeah. P. Diddy'd be jealous of you, but no, let's make the entire.
I didn't think about it that way. It's a great point, Ray. Because I was going to say, I actually would spend stupid money on something like a sailboat if I had stupid money.
Right.
But I guess there's stupid money you could spend on a yacht or a sailboat. But this is like ludicrously dumb money for $500 million.
Buy your $25 million yacht and then cure cancer. Come on, do something like.
Oh, Ray, come on. They're obviously doing something right if they can afford that. Maybe it's not curing cancer.
I know.
I'll give you a hint, Ray. The guy who's doing this,
right?
He has cured going to the shopping mall. How about that? That's a pretty nice cure.
Yeah. Well, I think I might know who that is. But yeah, no, it's like I was thinking about this weekend too. Like get your Corvette. You don't need a McLaren. Like you can spend $100,000 and soup up your Corvette. And it's a bad. You don't need to go spend $1 million to get one of 100. Like I get it, I guess. But if I'm saying this in all sincerity, I had $200 million, I'd buy the Corvette. That's me.
Okay, what would you get silly with? If there was something like, what would you get silly with?
If I got silly with anything, it'd probably be my house.
Yeah, I think me too.
Now you have to buy the house knowing that if you get a silly, stupid house, you may never sell it. Right? Because it's like, when you're spending $58 million on a home, there's not that many people that can buy your house.
You know what I do actually, Ray? It wouldn't be big homes. It wouldn't be big homes.
Okay.
Or a big home. Like I go to California and build like a $25 million mansion. What I would do, Ray, is I would have nice homes in like 10 different countries.
That's fair.
I think I'd want, and then just kind of bounce around from wherever, couple at the beaches, couple in like, one in New York, one in Paris, one in London, Tokyo. Like I'd have fun spots. Right. I'd probably spread it out with all those houses.
I'd also create a movie theater in my home where like I'm soundproofing this thing with like 18 inches or whatever. Like I'm going to have this stereo cranked till my ears bleed and my neighbor can't hear me. Of course, my neighbor's going to be 18 acres away, so I guess it won't matter. But I would get the biggest OLED TV in the world. I'd spend the $180,000 or whatever and get the. But the idea of having $1 million spot here and $1 million spot there, I mean, just get 2-bedroom condos or whatever in like 6 different spots. That is a good idea, Kyle.
Yeah, Ray wants something so loud that it registers on the Richter scale.
Yeah, I want the ground to see.
That's really
I also need it to be insulated.
What is up with you and all the noise? That has never been an attraction of mine.
I need to have it insulated because my gal hates bass and loud noises.
Yeah.
So it'd just be me in there by myself. But no, having your innards shake when that bomb drops in the movie, Kyle, it's super cool.
Well, you need to go to that in Vegas, the new Sphere.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, Ray, but it's got like the biggest screen known to mankind. That's where U2's doing their residency, I think, next year. They're going to open the place up. It's right off the strip. For people who go to Vegas, it's a giant globe. And they've got a huge screen, but it's like 360 spherical seating. It's a very unique venue, but the sound, Ray, is supposed to be epic.
I wonder how much it would cost to install an IMAX theater in your house. That might be something to look into.
I don't know if it's something to look at. Ray, I'll save you the search. You don't need.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to afford it.
Well, no, if I was this guy who had the money, not me, yeah, but.
What do you think, Ray? Let's say you won an IMAX. When you're
Yeah.
that rich, do you even wonder about the price? You just say build it.
You say build it. And how many seats would you like, sir? 12.
Yeah.
Okay, the screen is. You want 12 seats? Okay. But no, you don't. You just tell your secretary or your assistant, get that done.
Yeah.
Right? You don't even. But again,
So
that's
we'll talk about rich dudes and what they're doing with their money. That's coming up in dessert later. Finally, our drink of the day, Ray. Coming off a weekend, I'm sure you indulge in a few items. What makes the cut today?
I did. I went to Napa this weekend and had wine tasting, so I don't have that with me. I should have actually brought a bottle. Dang it.
Yeah, or at least a quart.
I'll bring a bottle tomorrow. I'll grab one of the bottles we brought home. I should have done that today. Sorry. Because I was getting excited today. So we went. I told the story. I went to the beach. We got my gal brought the 3 power drinks I'd never seen before. Here's another one, Kyle. And this one's an interesting bottle. This is a 0 sugar energy drink. It is inspired by, I want to say, rug.
Rug?
Is that what it says? I couldn't read it.
Maybe
it could be Rug. It could be Ray.
German? I don't know.
It must be something having to do, because this is the limited edition performance drink with extreme focus. Okay, G Fuel, which is the official drink of esports. So I'm assuming this must be a term with esports.
Yeah, maybe Rug is a game or a team. They have teams in esports.
Maybe
Ray.
This is the Sour Chug Rug.
Sour Chug Rug. I bet that is a team.
Inspired by Rug, right? Maybe this is Rug?
Maybe that. Yeah, that's probably a team member, Ray. That Rug. That looks like Rug.
Rug?
I don't know who Rug is.
I don't know who Rug is. I guess I should have looked this up before we started.
I know who Mike Trout is, but I don't know who Rug is.
Rug. So this can grabs your attention. There's Rug, I guess. Right? Then you got the G Fuel.
Yeah.
Then it's got the Sour Chug Rug. Actually, this is better than the Starburst one I shared. Remember that?
Yeah.
This is actually better. Again, it's not something I need to get again, but this is it. Chug it. You rug it.
I don't know much about the esports realm. I know it's quite popular. People go and watch these teams play. I will say I was reading kind of a behind the scenes that none of these things make money. First off, like nobody's making money off this thing right now, except the teams. Like they can't find a way, like even when they bring them to the venues and they sell the joint out, they're not really making money. So there's that aspect of this growth sport. I don't know, sports kind of. Ray, what do you think? Sport or not?
No, it's definitely not a sport.
There's teamwork involved.
Yeah.
You go, so there's teamwork involved. These guys are like superstars. They have their own entry theme music, all that stuff. But what I've kind of wondered about, Ray, is I know in the sports world, and this is kind of one of my problems with the world of golf. I don't want to. I'm not a big golf guy, and I think it's kind of silly. I admire great. I know they're really good, but it's still golf. Like they're really good at golf, and I don't give them much credit because you can still play golf into your 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like you can still be good at golf, which doesn't make it dumb or stupid. But to me, it's not like to me, Ray, a sport. There's a period. There's a finite time you can succeed in it, and we see it in the major sports. You're not usually successful in your 40s. Even into your mid 30s, you start to wear down. The prime spot is like 20s and early 30s. There are guys out there like Max Scherzer and Verlander who go into their 40s, but for the most part, we know that as you age out of the sport. Okay, where do you think these guys age out, Ray?
Well,
like when do they stop? Like, do their like you nailed it? Do the thumbs wear down? Eyesight? I'm guessing. Do they finally wake up at the age of 35 and say, I got to do something with my life? I mean, sitting on this chair has taken 20 years off my life for the last 20.
Right.
Like, I wonder when these guys age out of their so-called sport.
It's wild. I watched it. It was on Netflix or something, right? I saw a special about this, and it's wild because we all know about it, right? Even if you're not involved, but it's like as big as fantasy sports. It's huge.
Yeah, it's
billions
huge.
of dollars. And there's YouTube channels, and I always joke around. My nephew and my niece used to, but watch people play video games, which to me is the dumbest thing ever. Like when I grew up, I was always ticked off as I'm waiting to go. I don't want to watch my brother play or, Josh or Trent, my buddies. Give me the damn controller. But these kids today, they watch this and watch this and watch it. So it's this huge thing. Hell, they've got a power drink for it. And by the way, it's not just for gamers because I'm on their website right now, Kyle. It's
well,
not
you're
just
preaching it, Ray. You might turn into a gamer if they've stuck in some proprietary formulation in there.
You don't have to be sitting in place for an 8-hour stream to enjoy a hype sauce. I don't know when you lose it, but I do know that there's a point, right, where you start to lose your dexterity a little bit, and I mean, it happens to all athletes. I don't know. I wonder if there's been any kind of study on this.
Well, it's fresh enough, Ray, to where I'm sure there are guys in their 30s, playing this. But
yeah,
I don't think there are any guys in their 50s. I don't know. Maybe there are. I don't know enough. If anybody knows in the chat room, I mean, do guys retire from esports or can they just keep going? And again, working grind says hand-eye coordination. I guess that wears down.
I mean,
I still don't think that the hand-eye coordination of playing video games to me is not to the level of hand-eye coordination with a hockey player. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm sure the scientists can tell me. And again, working grind says you're totally right. The dudes who do it, like Ray just showed, they get their own energy drink. You guys make tons of money, but the sport doesn't make money. The people buying into this and hosting these events are not making money. They're hoping it pays off down the road, but right now they're losing money. All the money's going to the players at this point. So.
Hey man, it's good to know.
Okay. This is something usually we show things we want to drink, right? Or that we have drank. Well, I've drank this before, but I don't want to drink it. I'm not a big fan. But I saw it today, Ray, and I wanted to bring it today because it's a beautiful spring day here in the Midwest. It's going to get up in the low 70s. It's sunny. It's nice. Now, tomorrow it'll be back into the 50s, and, we're back to March weather. It's all over the place here. You get warm days, rainy days, windy days, cold days, all that stuff really in the month of March. But we always hear when the seasons change from September to October to November, that cool fall crisp in the air, that change of weather. And there are certain drinks, of course, you drink with certain seasons. When we go from summer to fall, ciders become pretty big. People like a cider, campfire, all that. But we don't get that when we go from winter to spring, where it's still kind of chilly in the air. And I get it. You're not going into cold. You're coming out of cold. But I saw this cider today. And this has a 5% alcohol content, which is, worth taking a look at. But Ray, this stuff is very popular. It's everywhere.
Yep.
It is just so incredibly sugary.
It's very sugary.
It's just and I know you can get light versions, which are okay. But the real ones that you buy, it's kind of like those energy drinks, Ray. I feel like I'm getting nothing but a pile of sugar with this stuff. It even overwhelms the alcohol content in these Angry Orchards. It's just so darn sugary.
This, everyone knows this. I love tiki. Right. Yeah. And Jesse makes fun of me all the time. See, how do you have 4 tiki drinks? How do you take the sugar and everything? I'm like, I have that and I have one if I have an Angry Orchard. I agree with you. And I like that kind of drink. It's very strong. It's kind of like that Starburst power drink I had. It's it's too much. I find that you could put an Angry Orchard on ice. You could try that. It mellows it out a little bit.
Yeah. I have a weird mental block, Ray, of pouring this over ice. It's a beer. I guess it's a cider, which it's on me, not on them. Right. I mean, the idea of ciders, Ray, I really like, but they are not all made the same. There are good ciders, and then there are mass-produced ciders. This is probably one of them that they don't do it for me. They're too yucky. And I feel like if they're not ice cold, forget about it.
Right.
So maybe you're right. You got to pour it over ice, and maybe that'll calm it down. Maybe I'll try that later.
Well,
I've never done it with these ciders, so maybe I'll just try it.
You ever had a Magners on ice?
Yeah, I've had Magners, but I haven't had it on ice. No.
Yeah, there's a local pub here, an Irish pub here that I used to go to when I lived at the other spot. And that they even ask you as they're pouring it, it's what people do is they put their Magners on ice. So something to think about. I don't know if if you've got an extra one laying around, don't go buy a 6-pack because it's not going to change the profile that much for you, Kyle. But yeah, those Angry Orchards, they're even sweet for me.
Now, Chris in our chat room, Chris is a very smart guy. He always, chimes in. We like hearing from Chris. I got a question. Wine is not good on ice.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I mean, no.
If your wine has ice in it, it better be Franzi out of a box. Because that's
Well, you wouldn't do it for reds. It's for whites. I get that. But you got to chill it. And sangria is not wine. You're changing.
Sangria is not wine.
When I see somebody says wine on ice, I'm thinking wine out of a bottle poured on ice. And white wine's fine. I'm not calling out. Chill it in the refrigerator, whatever, your wine cooler. Don't throw it over ice.
No.
The
sommelier yesterday would have vomited if he heard such a suggestion.
well, you were in Napa, Ray. Okay, come on. Not all of us are hanging out in Napa for our wine. I got to bring you to some of our wineries here in Missouri. Got a lot of wineries, but they do more of a German style wine, which is more, it's just sweeter. A little too sweet for me, but that's very popular around these parts, but too sweet for me. Okay, that is our lunch menu for this Monday. We are off and rolling for the week. Going to be a fun and busy week. We got a lot of things to tell you about here at Bettor Sports. In fact, when we come back, we got a big baseball preview. I don't know. It's not a guide, Ray. It's just we're throwing out videos for everybody to check out over at the Bettor site. So we'll tell you how you can enjoy that. We'll tell you how you can get Ray Flowers breakdowns of players, like you can watch them, cut them. So we'll run through all of that. We've got specials that we are putting together here on BSN. I want to tell you about those. And we've got baseball and third baseman and all that. It's coming your way next. Stay with us. More of Lunch Money on BSN.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr., and I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafolo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave. Because, accuracy to me is really important. So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I am hunched over. And I just, literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? What was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafolo's name on there. I had
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
He wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Bettor Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
How bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. They were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? I'm not sure he will ever either, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him, so I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Bettor Sports Network. It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
If you've not been to the website, bettorsports.com, check it out. There's a load of things over there. We've got like highlights from all of our shows here on the network. There is a merchandise spot, paraphernalia. If you really want to show the world how cool Bettor Sports is, you can find it there. And then I think launching today, maybe it launched yesterday, but today at bettorsports.com, we are releasing our Bettor baseball preview. Which is a slew of videos. We're going to have drafts up there, all sorts of things, features, talking about favorite wagers for the upcoming year. All this stuff is going to be released at bettorsports.com. It is totally free to access all this stuff. I think you got to create a username, an account, all that stuff, but it's totally free. And you will get content from this guy, Ray Flowers. Think even I'm on there. Adam Ronis is on there. A lot of people who cover the baseball scene here at Bettor Sports. And Ray, I know you and I did a lot of player profiles. So did Adam. We've got like 80 of them that are going to be released. I don't think they're all up there right now. It's March 6th. So we'll release them bit by bit. But you and I, Adam, others, kind of breaking down fantasy baseball for the upcoming year.
Yeah, and so everyone knows, you can't sign into this with your same information from your app. Okay, so you have to create a new account. You can use the same email address, but you have to put a new password in. So, because I tried out myself, I'm like, why is this not working? You have to create a new one. But when you go to the site, you'll click in bettorsports.com. You'll see the free access page. You click on that little link there, and just so everyone knows, it then takes you to another landing page that you have to click on. And I don't know why. You should just go right to it, but there's another page you have to click on: Bettor Baseball Player Profiles or Bettor Baseball Features. So make sure you click on that. You're still in the right spot. Don't just give up. You click on that next thing and it goes. And yeah, there's tons of player profiles. And basically what we did is we, the three of us, and there's some other ones on there. Like I have ones on there talking about the bases and the pitch clock and that kind of thing. The idea is we're giving you 45-second sound bites on players. So real simple, quick, short, pluses, minuses of someone. Are you interested? Should you not be interested? What's the reasoning? So 45-second video, quick hitting things from like 75 players.
Yeah, if you're on Twitter, which I don't know, is Twitter still down? Is it up yet?
It just came back on a couple minutes ago.
Twitter's back. Okay. Woo! That was maybe the roughest hour of your life, not having Twitter. There's a lot of people that were sweating bullets.
TweetDeck I did not know that Tony Gonsolin hurt his ankle, Kyle. I didn't know this for 10 minutes.
Is it bad or is it just
he went off the field with a trainer? We'll see.
Okay. Semi-bad, I guess, for Tony Johnson. But when you go onto Twitter, at Bettor Sports is where you can find that. I think Ray's got a video up there now, right, Ray? I think there's one maybe on the base paths that people can take a look at. And there'll be other videos released on Twitter. But again, we'd love for you to go to the website, bettorsports.com, sign up, and get access to all of this. Loads of players, loads of features. I think tomorrow night, here on the Bettor Sports Network, we've got a baseball draft that's coming your way that is 7 to 10 o'clock Eastern. So you'll be able to follow along, and we'll post that in the baseball preview. So all sorts of great things coming your way, and we will tell you more about that. We even have more specials here on the network that are about to drop this week. So I want to get to that before we get out of the show. Quickly, Derek Carr has a contract with the New Orleans Saints. Ray, we now see the money for Derek Carr. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to read Ian Rappaport's tweet. You tell me what we've got, Kyle. Okay.
You're going to ask me to figure out an NFL contract. Huh?
Yeah. Derek Carr agreed to a 4-year deal for $150 million with $100 million in total guarantees.
That should be the end of it.
Right. The next sentence. He gets $70 million effectively fully guaranteed. Is it $100 million or is it $70 million? Again, the full tweet. Agreed to 4-year deal for $150 million with $100 million total guarantees. He gets $70 million fully guaranteed. So I don't know which number it is. It's at least $70 million guaranteed. It seems like $100 million guaranteed over those 4 years, but it's $150 million. So he doesn't hit that $40 million area that everyone's kind of trying to hit in terms of a yearly average if you look at it 4 years for 50, but he's pretty close.
Well, what I'm seeing here, Ray, is the only thing to me that's guaranteed is he signs his name, he gets $60 million. Right. That's the way I see it. And the extra 10, that's if he completes year 1, then year 3 vests an extra 10 million guaranteed. Now, I don't know how we make up from 70 to 100.
But why does he write $100 million in one sentence and the next one 70?
I don't know. I'm sure I'm sure there's an explanation to a capologist, but yeah, they make this very complicated.
This is the problem too. Like Taysom Hill signs obnoxiously stupid contract that everyone knows, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to restructure it," and that's what they do. Like it's all fake. And like you said, they knocked $7 million off. They move the money around. So I am not a capologist. I don't think 99.98% of people that watch football have any idea how this goes. Let's just say he's a saint and he's making a lot of money. How about that? I don't know.
He's a saint and he's making a lot of money. He's got a home for at least this year. How about that? 1 year, we know Derek Carr going to be with the Saints for at least 1 year. And he'll make $60 million for that 1 year. With more to come, perhaps. We'll see. That's the only thing we can sit here and say. But anyway, congrats to Derek Carr. We'll talk some more NFL coming up. Let's see. Spring training. A lot of things going on over the weekend. I don't know if there was anything bigger, Ray. Certainly not in my neck of the woods than Jordan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, yesterday I went to MLB.com and there at the headline, here it is. The next Pujols. I love it, Ray. Is the greatest right-handed hitter in like the last 60 years or whatever. And already Jordan Walker is getting that headline. The next Pujols? Question mark?
I mean,
I'm going to say he fails to live up to that.
I think I would agree with you 100%. Not even 99.98, 100%. Same team, right-handed. Okay, but come on. They're not even the same type of player. 2020 is what people are talking about with Walker. Would Poole steal 20 bases? Come on. And that stuff we joke about all the time. He's an ex-Barry Sanders. He's an ex-Tom Brady. He's an ex-Mike Trout. It's just stupid. But the fact is, the Jordan Walker hype, and we've talked about him around the show, it's rising to the point where it's bordering on getting out of control right now. I saw a first pitch Arizona thing where, like, what was that? Who was it? Someone, they were looking at the projection models for Walker, and they had like 300 to 400 plate appearances, and the people that were attending the conference had him at like 550, and they had him hitting like 30 home runs with 18 steals. It's like the expectations are out of control.
And he still has to win a job. Now, I've said consistently a month ago, if he hits, I think he makes this team. Mm-hmm. And one thing to say with Walker is this is the week where those guys start leaving for the World Baseball Classic. He's not. He's staying with the Cardinals, Ray, and he's going to get a lot of playing time. And I think Ollie Marmol, who's the manager, was asked Saturday after Walker pounded a couple of more home runs. He said, "Hey, it looks good, but we need to keep seeing it." And I guess the positive of the WBC, Ray, is we're going to get to see if Jordan Walker can keep it up. And I think if he does, I'm not saying he will, but if he does, Ray, I think he's going to be on this team at the start of the season. And if that's the case, he's probably starting at outfield or DH for this team. And people kind of poo-poo the DH thing, Ray. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's such a poop, because if Jordan Walker's killing it, I don't think Juan Yepes is going to stand in his way. Okay. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong there. And the other aspect, Ray, is if you DH him, it's not that you're saying he's doomed to DH the rest of his life, but that allows you to still work on the fielding away from the bright lights. Right. You know, you can still do that in your lead up to game time every day. So I again, if he hits, I will be surprised if he doesn't make this team. Now, if he doesn't hit or, so some struggles or just calms down, he doesn't like force the issue, then he will probably start in the minors. But I think there is an avenue to playing time if he can keep hitting, and like at the end of spring, he's hitting 370. I think they're going to bring him up with the big league team.
Yeah, well, and I talked about this at the start too, and just to bring it up again, Jared Kelenic was a prospect at least on par with Walker. And look how it's gone for him the first couple of years. It's not that easy. Some guys hit the ground running, others don't. And I think it's the storyline with Walker. He's so intriguing in the fantasy game because he does bring the speed, right? That is part of his game. So everyone got excited. He beat out a grounder the other day in the infield. Oh my gosh, he got a single. But some people have read too much into the, well, we don't know who's playing center field debate, as if the loser of the center field debate for the Cardinals is going to the minors or something. Like there's still 3 spots in the outfield, right? Yeah. It's not like Dylan Carlson's losing center field and, oh my gosh, he's going to the bench. Well, no, he's going to play right field then. They've got Alec Burleson, another youngster out. So and we've talked about it. There are options here. Walker is the premium talent. He's the highest upside player of all of them. That is totally fair. But, Dylan Carlson was an elite prospect. Tyler O'Neill's been 30-15 in this league. Nootbaar, Burleson. There are guys there, to Kyle's point. If Walker struggles at all, it's not like the Cardinals are going to continue to run him out there if he's hitting 210. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. So if he keeps hitting again, that's kind of the key here. He's got to produce results. They won't say, oh, he's looking good, but even though he's hitting 220, we're going to bring him up. I don't think that'll be an easy excuse. The excuses become harder when he does what he did on Saturday. So that's kind of the game they're playing as they get set for the start of the season. Now, Walker is a natural. I don't know if a natural. He's his usual position. He came up as a third baseman. Jordan Walker will not play third base for the time being because the Cardinals have Nolan Arenado. But he is a guy that if you draft, third base eligibility is probably there for Jordan Walker in most setups. This all leads into our discussion of third baseman. And Ray, we start with the guys at the top who we already mentioned. Third base is going to be the focus this week. And for many, the focus starts with those big three names at the top. And you look at Jose Ramirez and Bobby Witt Jr. and Manny Machado, especially with Ramirez, Ray, it's kind of insane's not fair because there are other guys that do this, but it's hugely impressive, like what he has been over the past 4 years or so. And I don't know if he's still, I know he's going like top 3, top 4 in drafts, Ray, but I still feel like Jose Ramirez is a bit overlooked by so many people, even in the fantasy world. It's like, yeah, he's good. And then you look at the numbers and you see how good he actually is.
Well, I think it's really interesting too, because he's 5'9", 195. Like he's a little big, he's a little short. When he came up, it's like this guy can hit, but he doesn't have much power. And then he transformed his game, and he's routinely hitting 30 home runs. He is one of the more consistently solid power hitters in baseball, not just in terms of producing home runs, but of working on base percentage. His career strikeout rate is what, 15%? It's 12%, which is fantastic. The league average last year was 22.4. For his career, he's 12.2. And he hits 30 home runs. We just don't see this type of game. He would have fit back in the 50s and 60s. We just don't see that type of game anymore. So he is a rare power speed guy at a position that doesn't have many. He works the count. He gets on base, produces runs. And, to date, he's shown no signs of skill slippage, and he's only 30 years old.
Well, and Ray, aren't we? I mean, we're 7 years of this guy. I think there was 1 year he didn't. But 6 of the last 7 years, he's getting MVP votes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how long we're going. You have to assume, okay, he's going to have an 8th good year, we assume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, we're kind of knocking on the door of the Hall of Fame here with Jose Ramirez. We're getting close to it with the amount of success. There are not many guys who go 8 years of like all-star level production like he has.
Yeah, I think that right now, I'm not saying Coors Field, but right now he's in that Todd Helton zone. And we've seen with Helton, it took a while, and then he started getting that momentum to the Hall of Fame. So it's still early for Ramirez. Obviously, longevity matters because as great as he has been, he doesn't even have 200 home runs. He barely has 1,100 hits. Like there's still milestones he needs to hit. But his performance in those last 6-7 years has been Hall of Fame worthy, not just in the real world, but obviously in the fantasy game as well.
Mm-hmm. And he gives you steals, which people love. And that kind of still separates him a bit from the guys behind him. It certainly separates him from Manny Machado. Now, Machado's fine with steals, maybe in that 8 to 12 range. Get you a decent total. Maybe he takes a move forward this year with the new rules. Bobby Witt, Ray, Machado and Ramirez, we got years.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Witt, we have a year.
Right.
Now he has vaulted into the consensus top 5, top 6 overall after just one season. He's a 5 category dude. It wasn't perfect last year. Rarely is as a rookie, unless your name's Julio Rodriguez. But Ray's right there with J-Rod in terms of fantasy value and kind of where people expect him to go. I keep looking at Bobby Witt, Ray, and I really do like Witt. Like I have no problem making him my first round pick. And a year ago, I would have said, "Ooh, that's a little scary," because we haven't seen a thing from Bobby Witt. Last year, he struggled. I think it's very fair to say he struggled at the beginning of the season. But Ray, one of the beauties, and we talk about this with other teams, they kept playing him, kept sending him out there. Now, it wasn't Jared Kelenic struggles, but it wasn't like, oh, this guy's an all-star and hit the ground running and there's no stopping him. Like he had to figure out the major leagues. I applaud him and the Royals for doing that. They kept plugging him in, kept playing him. Let's do it. Let's keep doing it. And Ray, it ended up being pretty solid. Like I said, 5 categories. I keep looking at Witt. And like, this is a dude who in the minors was hitting 350 OBPs And last year he was struggling to get to 300.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray, even with that struggle of getting on base, the dude had a ton of steals. Like if he can get to a 330 OBP, which to his historical standards and what we expect of good baseball players, 330 is not all that difficult. This may sound dumb to you, Ray, but I think 50 steals is like legitimately doable for Bobby Witt Jr. this year.
I would go back to what you were saying. He's not a 5 category guy for me. He's a 4 category guy for me. And I know you spoke about his on base percentages. His batting average is not. His batting average is this concern I have.
Okay, I mean, is it? Well, what's the concern? Because I look at the league, Ray, and it's a 230 hitting league. If my guy hits 260, I'm happy.
Who else in the first round is hitting 250? I mean, you talked about Julio Rodriguez. If Julio Rodriguez hits 250, like the sky is falling. Like he's not doing that, right? Bobby Witt, to your point, played through struggles. To the Royals' credit, they gave him 150 games. He would 2030, and it's not like I'm saying 2030 is the floor, but it kind of feels like it is. To your point, like it really does. Like I think that it's more likely we see an increase for me in the home run category than the steals category, but that could still put him in the 30-30 conversation. And I think that he's unfairly compared to Mike Trout, right? You hear it all the time. The swing's a little bit similar, the profile. Mike Trout's, might know Mike Trout at 210 as a rookie, but Mike Trout always knew how to take a walk. He always knew how to get on base. Mm-hmm. In Bobby Witt's case, he didn't even have a 5% walk rate. It's like 50% of the league average, 60% of the league average. Not there. Didn't strike out a ton. Was basically league average there, but didn't walk to help out with the batting average. To your point, his on-base percentage of 294 stinks. Even in today's game, it stinks. The league average is 15 points higher than that. You look at the StatCast data, the batted ball stuff. 174 isolated power mark, barely league average. The exit velocity is about a mile above league average. The barrel rate's right on the league average. The hard hit rate's right on the league average. So, there's refinement needed here. And the problem, again, I have is not that he couldn't go 30-30 because he legitimately could. I just wonder if he hits 251 doing it. If he's way more Adolis Garcia than he is Jose Ramirez.
Yeah. I think at the age of 22, the numbers he posted are stellar. And I think there's more coming. Like you mentioned all the hit ball data. It's first go right. Did he even play AAA? I don't think he did. Did he? Did he totally skip AAA?
He did 60 games. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he played a little bit of AAA, but I mean, he was on the fast track. Bobby Witt Jr. has. So I applaud the season, and I actually think it is going to get better. And I'm a little more bullish on the stolen bases than maybe Ray is, because I think there will be improvement with that on base percentage just naturally. I think he's going to be a better player this year. Now, he obviously came to us last season. This third base position, as we continue our overview, there's a couple of young bombers behind him that are pushing the envelope. We introduced you to one talking about Jordan Walker. I kind of feel, Ray, like perhaps a little overlooked is another young third baseman, Gunnar Henderson. And I say overlooked. My gosh, he's still going in the top 10 amongst third basemen. But as we talked about Walker and kind of what he is and the excitement there, maybe it's overshadowing what we should be with Gunnar Henderson. Where do you stand on the Orioles youngster?
Yeah, MLB Pipeline has him as the number 1 prospect in baseball right now. Actually have him ahead of Corbin Carroll, and I think there's some debate about that. Henderson, shortstop, but third base. We've talked about that, and looks like third base is more likely to start his career. I think that he's got an impressive hit tool. He's got a ton of power. He's not a blazer on the base paths, but he's plenty fast enough to steal 20 bases. There are some people that even think he could go 2020 this year, almost pull a Bobby Witt. Witt had 2030 last year. And it's a up-and-coming Orioles team where the vibe is totally different than it has been. This is not a team you're going to kick their butt around and we're going to suck on July 15th and get drunk at game day. No, this team's going to be good. We're improving. We may not win the division, we may not make the playoffs, but we're going in the right direction. So there's way better mindset there. Overall, Henderson really can do it all. He's one of these guys that has all the skills to be successful at the big league level. You never know at the start of a career. Again, we kind of have a position change defensively, but he could struggle and hit 18 home runs and steal 15 bases like that. Yeah, it's not. We never know who's going to fail at the start, but Henderson certainly has the profile of someone who won't fail at the start. We would have said the same thing about Mike Trout, but he has the profile of someone that's going to contribute in the home run and steals category right from the start.
Well, he's not and again, I hate to say they're the exact compatible because, oh, well, he does this, he does, but it's like Bobby Witt Jr., right? Isn't it? I mean, a guy who plays shortstop and third base, a guy who is got the home run and steal capabilities. Like if you don't get in early, and again, there's not the risk with Henderson is, what are we seeing? 34 games. Kind of like the risk we had to deal with Witt last year. Last year we'd seen nothing of Bobby Witt, and so people were kind of drafting on blind faith. Henderson, we've seen a little bit more, but it's still like, okay, let's see what we do deep into the pool. So there's that inherent risk. It worked if he took it last year with Witt. It worked. I think Gunnar Henderson will probably be good. I don't know if he's as good as Witt, though, in that first year.
Right.
I think you've got a fine third baseman, but, whereas Witt went 20-30, maybe you're more of a 20-20 or 15-20 with Gunnar Henderson. I think he's good. It's a little like, is it overzealous for you, Ray, to say he's a top 10 third baseman right now?
No, I've got him right there at fantasyguru.com. If I had to guesstimate numbers, which I hate doing, if I had to do it though, I'd be more inclined to say 20 home runs than 20 steals. I'd be more in the 2015 kind of zone if I was looking to do that. One major difference between Witt and Henderson is Henderson has always taken a walk, like at a high level, and that's always allowed his on-base percentage to play up, which should help the counting categories, the runs scored. Even if he's hitting 250, if he's got a 340 on-base percentage, it's light years better than Bobby Witt. I think he's a little more refined as an offensive performer than Witt was at the start of last season. But again, being a more refined hitter and overall offensive player doesn't mean more valuable in the fantasy game, because that's not, you're in a points league is different. If you're in a 5x5 league, 30 steals trumps 18 steals is just going away. That's just how it is. So I could see Henderson matching the batting average and the home run totals last year of Witt, not matching the steal total, still being very good. And you have to remember too, you said this earlier as well when we were talking Ramirez, third base doesn't have a lot of guys stealing 15 bases. It just doesn't. And so it's nice to get a double-digit steal guy at third base, even if his batting average is a little bit behind some of the others at the position.
So we've got these super studs, at the position. We've got these young guns. There are also some other like generic categories you can throw. There are guys at third base who you kind of look at and say, can I really trust these guys to be my starting third baseman? Like Ray, I look at Brandon Drury or Jose Miranda or Alec Boehm. I throw Max Muncy in there. Like, where is Max Muncy? Like, can I trust these guys to be third baseman? The one I really struggle with is Brandon Drury. Like, we saw Brandon Drury for 5-6 years and he was nothing really. And then last year he goes bonkers with the Reds. And now he's with the Angels and we don't really know what his job is as such. And I can't trust him. I mean, Brandon Drury to me, I never trusted him last year. Like every time in May and June when Brandon Drury, he'll fade. He did fine. He had a good year, right? He had a really good year. But I guess I'll just choose to continue to ignore him.
Well, and it's interesting because I'm doing a draft. I'm in one keeper. I'm in a dynasty league, but I'm in one keeper league with the old fan ball guys. I just drafted Brandon Drury in the 18th round of a 12-team league. So, and I had a need at the corner infield spot, and that's not, so clearly the room isn't excited about him. I will point out, Drury qualifies at first base, second base, third base, which is huge. That gives you so much flexibility, so it's worth going the extra $1 or the extra round on him for that reason. Angels have been a little bit of a vortex, right? We've talked about that. Is it fair to expect him to go 28, 85, 85 again? No. I don't think anyone's drafted him that way, though. I think that he has found his groove. He has found his swing. I don't look at the data with him and think much of it was out of control. Like there's not something I look at and like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. So I think that there's a high degree of certitude of a similar level of performance. Now, 28 home runs could become 21, 85 RBIs could become 76. Like I'm not saying all the way, but I think he'll be plenty good given his draft day cost.
We always go through surprises each and every week here with these positions. I'm assuming Brandon Drury will be there. He could also be the guy of how real was it? Or how did that happen? So we'll probably have a little more on Brandon Drury throughout the week. Another category at third base as we kind of intro everybody to the position, Ray. There are names of these guys at the back end, but there are names, Ray, that 5 years ago, all these guys were on the front end. And I just wonder, at this point, they're kind of lottery tickets, but you've got guys like Anthony Rendon, Justin Turner, Josh Donaldson, Eduardo Escobar, Evan Longoria, Yohan Moncada, I throw in there. I mean, he's been around forever. It's like these old lottery tickets that you can still take a shot on. Probably the biggest call will be what people choose to do with Anthony Rendon. And I kind of feel, and I've never been a Rendon guy. I always think he's an injury risk. I was wrong for one season, and he killed it with the Nationals. You know, he vaulted into free agency, and he found a sucker in Anaheim to give him a lot of money. It's been miserable ever since then. So 90% of the time, Ray, I've been totally right on Anthony Rendon throughout his career, and I'm just going to stay with that. I mean, I don't expect health. I don't expect like a super rebound. He's just kind of out for me right now.
Moncada's 27 years old, by the way. Shocking. He's been around forever. You're right, but shocking. Rendon, I think you cut him short a little bit, Kyle. So I'm going to give him a little bit of bounce back here. He didn't have one season from 2016 to 2019, a 4-year run. He had 299, 26 home runs, 100 RBIs, and 90 runs scored. So that's 4 years.
How many games in those 4 years?
He averaged 146 a year.
Yeah, that's the case. He is a fine player, but Ray, I don't trust his health at all. I'm not interested in it. And I guess that's with the contract the Angels gave. It just seems so foolish. He gets like $30 million a year, and
we
said
it was a bad contract.
It's just a bad contract. And I would say this, Ray, now that he's back into the injured realm, I don't think we're turning back to 140 games. I think it's just going to be continual. Like he always has something popping up, and I don't think his body can handle it anymore.
Yeah, it's been kind of disappointing because he was always one of my guys because he was that player that you got the stability, you hit the 25-90, you're cool, right? He's batting 300, which is rare. But you're right. I wasn't defending him to say, oh, he's going 30-100 this year. Yeah. I'm just saying that he was really good for a 4-year period of time. The Angels overpaid. We both said it on air when the contract came down, and he's played it exactly how you suggested. Now, 2020 is kind of tough because he played 52 out of 60 games. And he had a 915 OPS. Like, that's pretty smoking.
He caught the right 60 because, Ray, we would have known he'd get injured the next week.
Yeah, right? So the last 2 years he's been terrible. He's got a 700 OPS. So the last
nobody is hoping for a return of COVID more than Anthony Rendon. Well, he really has to play 60 games.
Yeah. I still think he's a good major league hitter, but it doesn't matter if he's off the field. And, you know, the price point is it's inching up a little bit from what I've seen. It's understandable because if he's hitting cleanup, you know, and he's behind Ohtani and Trout, like you get it. Like it's the draw is obvious, but there is significant downside because the last 2 years have been extremely messy.
Mentioning Justin Turner, who's a guy that I kind of like for a very cheap play in Boston. Ray, that's now kind of up for debate now. Certainly, we got an instance just happening within the last 5 minutes or so, a scary incident down in Florida with Justin Turner.
Yeah, I didn't see it because obviously we're doing the show here, but it's widely being reported he took a pitch to the face from Matt Burns. He was able to walk off the field, but he had a towel to his face. There was blood seen. It's bad. Like he's injured. Yeah. But again, he was able to walk off the field, so that's really good news. But we'll have to continue to monitor this. No idea what part of his face was injured, his nose, his eye socket, his cheek, whatever. But this is obviously something to monitor because when you walk away from the field with the towel on your face, the blood and all that, we could be looking at some missed time for Justin Turner.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes peeled on Justin Turner. I don't know if we'll get any confirmed information in the next hour or two. But if we hear anything, we will let you know. Red Sox taking on the Tigers right now in spring training. Of course, we've got more on third base coming up throughout the show, throughout the week. When we return, though, let's get you some tidbits from the spring. Tell you what's going on, things you might have missed over the weekend. We've got news and notes, injury updates on some big names like Yordan Alvarez, like Jacob deGrom, Vlad Guerrero Jr. We'll run through those coming up next right here on Lunch Money.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We're talking catchers. And Ray, as we jump into this position, traditionally, this has been a position that you kind of say, well, there's like 2-3 guys and the rest is just junk. And gosh, I'm in a 2-catcher league. How in the hell am I going to fill 2 spots, in this 12-man league? And it's such a struggle after the 8th catcher. Like, fair to say it's different now? I mean, I know it's not great, but it feels like the best catcher pool I've seen in a while, like at least a half decade in terms of wow, we've got some hitters, we've got guys, and I know they're not exclusively catchers, and the DH is helping, certainly, but it looks like we're going, 10, 12 deep at least of feeling good about catchers, I think.
I tier the players at positions because I think that's a really good way to look at them. And when you tier players, you're basically putting guys that are likely to produce similar levels of production in the same tier. One guy might be batting average, one guy might be home runs, that kind of a thing, but basically the same end result value-wise. I have 2 guys on the elite tier. I then have 8 guys on the next tier. And then I go all the way to 22 on the third tier, which basically almost gets us to that, 2 catchers in the 24, 12-team league kind of thing. So I agree with you. And I think that even if you look beyond that, there's some names that are outside my top 20 that I could easily see being top 15 catchers this year. So yeah, it's not wow. But it's good overall. We got some young guys coming in that are dynamic players to help out some of the older guys that are still hanging on. It's better than it has been. I agree with you.
It's actually very young, Ray. And that, I mean, you look at Varsho, Rauschman, William Contreras, Kirk, Melendez, Cal Riley's semi-young, but Keibert Ruiz. And there's still other guys coming up that are in the minors right now. That's, we used to always say all these young catchers, just catch, don't worry about hitting. These guys are coming up with some skill sets as well.
Yeah, and the game is different now, right? Back in the day, you were an old dude that had no athleticism. You're good at blocking balls, and we hoped you'd pop 15 home runs, right? That was kind of the MO. Now it's different. Now we get more athletic guys. It's not that, you have to be some dumpy, slow guy catching. You can be an athletic player that can play other positions, as you noted. So I think the youngsters are bringing more athleticism, kind of like the tight end position in football, right? It's like there is more athleticism at the tight end spot than there was 25 years ago. I think it's the same way at the catcher spot.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back in. Little Skinner there, Ray, to bring us back. And I assume we're coming back with Leonard Skinner because today, the passing of, let me get the name correct. I want to make sure we got this. Gary Rosington, the final founding member of Leonard Skinner that was still with us, has passed away. So there you go. You might have thought Leonard Skinner was the same guys on and on and on. It's actually a crew of guys. They've been touring forever, but they've had guys tragically die, pass away, all that. Gary Rosington, guitarist, one of the founding members, or maybe the founding member even of Leonard Skinner, he has passed away. My dad always told me, I think this is true. This is the extent of my Leonard Skinner trivia, Ray.
Okay.
I know. They actually chose that name. It was like a PE coach of theirs. I guess my PE coach rate would have been we didn't really have a PE coach the whole way. The closest thing we ever came through with mine would be Chris Janet, which doesn't sound as cool as Leonard Skinner. What would your band be if you named it after a PE coach?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm having a hard time remembering first names of my teachers because I always remember Mr. Ray, Mr. Schuler. I don't know, and I didn't PE teacher like I was always in. God, I want to say Mr.
I feel like we didn't have a fixed PE teacher.
Yeah.
I feel like it was whichever athletic coach was free that hour on that day, he would kind of take over PE.
Yeah. I think it was just kind of and that was and I think it's totally different now. Yeah, I get the sense that Mr. Roy would be our PE teacher sometime, and that guy I don't think he ever was an athlete. I think it was like their free period. So I'm gonna say Mr. Schuler, but yeah.
Mr. Schuler's a terrible band name, right? We need a first name.
Yeah.
All these names you remember and all these baseball and football guys, but Mr. Schuler can't even get the first name right.
Let's look this up. And this is a really interesting story. This is the power of Facebook. He found me on Facebook, excuse me. And we're actually friends. Ed Schuler. He found me years later. He heard me on the radio and he said, Ray. And I was like, oh, Mr. Schuler. He's my history teacher too. Or social studies, I guess is what it was called.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're actually friends on Facebook.
Yeah, I think Leonard Skinner is a way cooler name for a PE teacher than Chris Janet.
Great documentary on Netflix about Skinner too, if you want to watch it.
Okay. Let's see. Spring training. We told you about the Justin Turner news. We'll let you know if anything pops up there, as he was hit in the face by a Matt Manning pitch from the Tigers right-hander and went down. A lot of blood. He did walk off the field, though, which is very important to understand. But probably going to have some time away, I would think, for Justin Turner with the Red Sox. Let's see. Elsewhere over the weekend, Kodai Senga had his debut, Ray. 1 earned run in 2 innings, couple of strikeouts. I think he hit the mid, 96, 97 thereabout. Where do you stand with Senga? Again, every year we have a new guy arrive in the States, and some are young, some are old, some go to good teams, bad teams. Senga goes to a good team, Ray, and there was a lot of competition for his services. But so much like a rookie, you kind of feel like you're dealing with a bit of a rookie here and how he's going to adjust to North American baseball.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen this happen many times, right? And sometimes there's higher degrees of success. Sometimes there's moderate levels of success. Sometimes guys don't work out. And it's a challenge, okay? I will say this, that everyone looks at Senga, loves the team scenario. It's a good place to pitch in New York with the Mets. And the skills are there. I don't think anyone doubts the skills are there for him to be successful. I think everyone's expecting him to be successful. Are they expecting him to dominate this year? I would say no. He throws hard. Not a huge dude. Remember, the baseball changes, the time between starts changes, the field changes, the expectations change. I think that he's someone that I'd feel comfortable kind of being more of an innings eater role than I would being a starring role. Like, give me 180 innings and 172 strikeouts and, a 3.5 ERA. Like, something like that I think is doable for him. I think those are big numbers, but I think something like that is doable for him. But there is that elevated risk because, again, there's a lot of changes that these players have to make on and off the field coming to North America.
Yeah, and he's 29, and you think, Ray, obviously Nomo was a success. Matsuzaka was an early success, and that kind of flamed out quick. But there are guys who just weren't. I remember Hideki Arabu came in with so much hype. Gosh, that's 25 years ago that he arrived. Went to the Yankees, a great team, and he was so-so probably at best. So you don't have a great read. I think the scouting has gotten better, over the last 2 decades. Major league teams kind of know what to look for and maybe what translates, or they know issues that guys may have in making the transition from overseas to the United States. So they kind of know how to handle, just because we've had more in the last 20 years. So we'll see how it goes with Senga. Did want to throw out from the weekend, Patrick Sandoval, right? That's another guy I feel is totally just, I don't know if anybody really cares or wants to know about Patrick Sandoval. Everything's bad with the Angels. They have nobody. But over the weekend, Ray, 6 strikeouts in 3 innings. And I would argue, Ray, that when you look at last season, people might be surprised at what Patrick Sandoval gave us. And again, it kind of gets buried under, the Angels can't develop pitching and it all sucks and it's terrible. The record's nothing. But, Ray, 27 starts of a 2.9 ERA. The whip was not good. The strikeouts were 1 an inning. We're not talking an ace, but does he deserve, to be an SP4? I mean, are you confident in Sandoval like that?
I think it's very reasonable to think we get a little bit more work. I think it's very reasonable to see that we see that strikeout an inning continue. It's reasonable to think he goes 9-6 instead of 6-9. Let's get crazy. So there are definitely improvements that are likely to just occur here with him. I do think 2 things need to be mentioned. One, he's a ground ball pitcher, but he had a home run to fly ball rate last year of 6%. And that's a number that's not going to sustain. Okay. That number is probably going to double toward the league average. And when it does, his home run rate doubles, and that drives the ERA up half a run right there. So we're not talking about an ERA in the 2s, not happening, just not happening. And there is danger that the ERA creeps into the 4s because his walk rate is not good. It's 9% plus each of the last 2 years. It's not horrible, but it's not good. It's worse than the league average. And so the whip is likely to maintain pretty much league average too. So I don't think he's an SP4, no. I think he's a fine addition to a staff because I do think he's pretty durable. You get the strikeouts. You just have to expect the ERA to probably be a run higher than last season and for the whip basically to remain the same.
Maybe more of a spot starter depending on the competition.
That's fair.
That might. Yeah. When he gets the A's.
Then fire him up.
Yeah. Send him out there against those Oakland A's. Okay, checking in on a few other things from the weekend. First off, injuries. Latest report with the Texas Rangers. Jake DeGrom is planning to face live hitters on Wednesday. Ray, I assume if he gets to Wednesday and he succeeds there, he feels fine. Probably our first start or appearance, maybe next Monday, maybe Sunday. Probably an inning, 2 innings maybe. I guess he's still in line to be ready to go for, what is full board Jake DeGrom. I guess we're still in an okay zone with him in terms of having him ready for the start of the season.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing. That's the expectation today.
You think he'll be built up?
Well,
will he be good for 5 innings on opening day?
Throw 72 pitches and have 6 strikeouts with 5 shutout innings. We've seen him do it so many times. He does not throw walks. He pounds the strike zone and challenges hitters. So I think he can throw 70 pitches and complete 5 innings. So yeah, I think he'll be built up enough to do that. That's my guess. I don't know that for a fact. It could be 60. It's Jacob DeGrom. They got to be careful. But again, I'm out on DeGrom at the price point. You're out on DeGrom at the price point. People have to make their own decision. I'm running a poll right now on Twitter at @TheRayFlowers. Put it up this morning. Most likely player to disappoint in 2023. Corbin Carroll, Jacob DeGrom, Shane McClanahan, Fernando Tatis. And right now, the early voting, 59% do say DeGrom, which I find pretty fascinating.
I think I'd go DeGrom of that crew. Yeah, probably land in that direction with the 59%. Ray, over the weekend, you and I were doing labor. I asked a couple of other guys in the industry while we were doing those broadcasts, are you worried about Yordan Alvarez? They weren't. Yordan Alvarez yesterday in that mixed labor went for $35. Not much of a discount. Ray, I'm wondering about discounts because here we are. We're still waiting. Still nothing with Yordan Alvarez. Has the worries entered your frame yet?
Yeah.
I mean, are you, like if I told you, hey, Ray, you can have Yordan Alvarez for 35, would you say, oh, it's $5 too much right now?
I have been very cautious here. Number one, I love Alvarez. Number two, I have Alvarez on my Dynasty League team. Number three, he's a spectacular offensive performer. Fourth, I'm getting nervous. I've dropped his price point over at fantasyguru.com. I think I've dropped it $4 in mixed league auctions. I've dropped it $3 in league only settings. That's still in the third. We still have him listed at $33 and $34 in an only setup. But each day that goes by, each report that comes out, I'm knocking that number down. And I will say this: I've got him again at 33 as the number 7 outfielder right now, and I don't feel great about it. I want to feel great about it. And if I'm not putting him in the DeGrom boat, I'm not putting him in the Buxton boat, I'm not putting him in that boat yet. But this is starting to get alarming. If we're a week from now, if we get this, he plummets. Like I can't be playing this game. Oh, he'll be ready in 2 weeks. We're fine. I can't be telling people to invest a first or second round pick in a guy that I'm starting to get concerned if he's even going to be there at the start of the season. And remember, it's not just, is he there in day one? It's that this is an issue that he dealt with last season that is still here. That's the bigger concern.
I'm a little more concerned here. This reminds me of where I was last year with Zach Wheeler. Like Zach Wheeler, I kind of just faded the whole thing, and it didn't work out. Zach Wheeler was mostly Zach Wheeler.
Right.
I was surprised he lasted the whole season and put up the numbers he did. So maybe maybe you should totally ignore me, but Alvarez, and it's not that I won't draft him. If he falls, if I'm sitting there in the middle of the second round and I get Yordan Alvarez, probably strike. But I think I've got a little higher level of concern probably than Benny. It's just kind of we all have to make decisions. How are we going to treat the news and what's our level of risk tolerance? I just look at all the talent in the early rounds, Ray, and it's like there's a lot of guys that are close to Yordan Alvarez even when he's healthy. So maybe I'll just settle for these guys because they are healthy at this point. His teammate Lance McCullers still not throwing either. So McCullers, Alvarez, saw Michael Brantley left camp with the Astros. He's got a family matter. So they're trying to get right there in Houston. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Ray and I were last with you on Friday last week here on BSN. Ray, he left with a knee injury. MRI was taken. It shows no structural damage, but he is going to sit a few days. He will not participate in the WBC. If I'm the Blue Jays, I just probably let him sit out for like a full week. Why push it with Vlad Guerrero?
Yeah, totally agree. And you said it before when we were talking about the position, first base position. Vlad's not in the best shape, but he plays. And so this is one of those kind of things. You monitor it, you rest it, you give him the therapy, you do what you need to do, you get him ready for the long grind. I'm not concerned at the moment that the knee issue is something like in Alvarez. Again, remember, Alvarez's issue was last year too. I'm not concerned about the issue with Vlad at this point at a level that I am of Alvarez. I think you can still basically draft Vlad the same way you would have 2 weeks ago.
He's going to sit out the WBC. And just to show you the drop for that team, that he was replaced by Jaimar Candelario. So that's a substitution you don't want to have to make. It's like, I guess the Team Dominican is like the AL only league. They go from Vlad to Candelario. Ray, it does sound like Juan Soto is going to try to play in the World Baseball Classic. Now, the Padres say he is still being treated for this calf injury, and he missed, I think, another game on Friday, and he's kind of been in and out of the lineup for the last week. But he is still planning on attending and playing in the WBC, which, again, I'm sure the Padres aren't interested in that, but they're not going to come out publicly and keep the guy from playing for his country.
Yeah, and I mean, what's important to the player may not be what's the goal of the player may not be the same as the team.
Yeah.
There's that too, right? They're not going to let him play if he is injured, of course. He doesn't appear to be injured. He just, it would be nice to see him skip it, I guess. But again, we run into this thing, like, how do we handle the WBC? Like, if everyone that's dealing with something pulls out of this, like, do we lose 20% of the players? Like, my elbow's a little sore, my knee's a little cranky. I don't know. We would hate, obviously, to see him blow his calf out in spring or in the WBC either way. Let's just hope that, everyone's smart about how they handle the situation.
Well, even if he doesn't blow it out, Ray, and he plays, it's like this idea of he's got to protect it at this juncture. You can play and still kind of protect it and maybe not go full bore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's going to totally criticize Juan Soto for not going full bore, because you can always say, hey, I'm saving myself for the season. And his country, they're just saying, hey, we got Juan Soto in our lineup. And they kind of but my concern, Ray, comes, okay, so now we go back to spring training when we maybe should have been sitting for a week and a half just to get it right. We were kind of out there doing stuff. And this is how a lot of times superstars fail to be superstars. Like Juan Soto last year played all year, and he wasn't up to his normal standards. And now he may play through this, Ray, but can he play to his normal standards? I know everybody's banking on a Juan Soto return.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost saying, hey, last year, who cares? And I'm kind of that ilk too. But when I've got a guy limping around right now, like, well, maybe it's not going to be as easy to return to his standards as I thought it might be.
I mean, and we've talked about Soto for years now, by the way. He's 24. He's still extremely young. He's a 24-year-old who was not great last year and had a 400 on base percentage. I mean, it's like, 99.98% of players ever would kill for that season, and it was a disappointment for him. He's a phenomenal hitter. He's phenomenal. And let's not forget, 2020, it was a shortened season. He had 350. Like, this guy could win the batting title, could lead baseball in OPS, could hit 30 home runs, could steal 15 bases. Like, he's a phenomenal offensive player. But last year was messy. And, you're with the new team now. He was with them last year, but full season with the new team and starting off a little slow with the ankle or the calf. And does that change your mechanics or your approach a little bit? So, yeah, it would have been great to see him blaze through this and not have this be an issue. I fully expect there to be a rebound, but anytime that you're dealing with the physical situation, it does give you a little bit of pause.
I might be willing, Ray, to say just if I'm at number 1 or number 2, I don't take Soto right now. And again, that allows you to take Acuna or Julio Rodriguez or Jose Ramirez. It's just one of those. We have 5 or 6 really awesome dudes at the top. And, if a guy's got anything, that's enough to maybe drop him a spot of those great players. It's not to say Soto can't be great. He's still going to go in the top 4, top 5, top 6, whatever it may be. But if you're sitting there at the very top, that may be something that swings your vote. Might be. Some people say, I don't care. I like Juan Soto. I want him. And that's fine. But for others who are maybe debating, oh, this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy are 4 different guys, this maybe gives you an option to say no to a guy like Soto and go Acuna or go Bobby Witt Jr., even if you wanted to go in that spot. A couple of other things. Philadelphia, still no update on Andrew Painter. Remember, he's got that tender elbow, so we were waiting what the situation.
What is that, by the way, Kyle? That's not a good sign.
He left camp and went to Philly, right?
But that's not a good sign to me.
Not a good sign. I'm sure he's back in Philadelphia is the way I understand it, which in and of itself, when you leave camp, is an awful sign. So I'm not expecting good news here. I would suspect, I wouldn't be surprised today, maybe after Philly's game or early tomorrow, we get something. And I doubt it's going to be season ending. I don't know. Maybe it could be. I will say this. It's going to be timeout. It is, Ray. I don't think we're going to get like good news for Andrew Painter, and he's back throwing 2 weeks from now in spring training.
That's my expectation too. We could both be totally wrong, but that, given the way this is evolving, that's my expectation too.
Couple of other things. Jose Quintana, he's out of the WBC. Got a bit of a back injury. Nestor Cortez dealing with a hamstring injury. Yankees admit that might leave him a bit behind his rotation mates. He might be like the 5th or 6th starter, best case scenario. Carter Keyboom, there's a prospect who's had just a disaster, kind of swirling around the toilet. He's had a setback with his Tommy John surgery. So that's going to leave Keyboom probably on the sidelines. Mike Clevenger, he's healthy as far as we know, but he does have that issue with the domestic accusation, if you will. We've got word over the weekend. MLB is not planning any sort of disciplinary action. So I guess whatever they looked at or saw was enough for them. And then quickly, there were some signings over the weekend. Texas, the Rangers getting Will Smith for their bullpen. Detroit adding Trevor Rosenthal for their bullpen. Colorado gets Brad Hand. And the Rockies, Ray, also added Mike Moustakas, left-handed hitter. Again, anybody in Colorado, you at least got to mention them. And with that team, with third base now of unsettled, or even second base, he can play second base now too, Moustakas. There actually might be a spot for Mike Moustakas with the Rockies.
Another one, and maybe I missed it yesterday. Did Brandon Rogers officially get an update on the shoulder? We haven't officially gotten
Second
it, right?
opinion is all I've seen.
Okay.
But I haven't heard what the second opinion said.
The expectation at this point is that Rogers is missing substantial time, and there was talk about surgery, and if surgery occurs on his shoulder, then the season's likely to be lost. So could be all year long. We're also hearing that Ryan McMahon, to Kyle's point, probably moves over there to take second base over, leaving third base up in the air. Nolan Jones, Montero is there. Could get a little excited about them the last couple of days last week, and here comes Moustakas. So, provided Moustakas is in decent shape and all that, he's not going to the minors, right? So he's going to be on the team. He'll make the squad, and then it's a question of, do both Montero and Jones even make the big league team? Are we talking platoon? So, the Moustakas signing obviously threw water on both Montero and Jones.
Okay. Breather for us when we come back. In addition to covering all things third base this week, we're also talking a lot about the NL East, going division by division leading up to the start of the year. When we return, odds. That's where we always begin our discussion. What do the odds makers say about the National League East? It's a very competitive division with a lot of high-end talent. So we'll tell you some of the early market numbers that you can get heading into the season after this on BSN.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Bettor Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft. Oh, well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions. You can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here, which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2-3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network. Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
I talked a lot about Jordan Walker earlier. He is not in the Cardinals lineup today, so there will be no Jordan Walker highlights. If you're waiting those, Cardinals are off to an early lead on the Astros, 6-1. I told you my bet du jour was the Red Sox topping the Tigers already, Ray. It's 4-0 in the third inning.
Ooh.
Feeling good about that money line bet on the Boston Red Sox.
You're on it, Kyle. Good start.
Oh, yeah. Hey, spring training, I can't be stopped. You know that.
You're elite.
You're not stopping me. Elite is exactly what I am when it comes to spring training wagering. We welcome you back to Lunch Money here as we get things up and rolling on a Monday morning or afternoon. I guess it's still morning for Ray Flowers. It is now afternoon for me. But we do a little bit of a brunch and lunch, I guess you could say, here with all the time zones that we are covering. Want to remind you again, head to bettorsports.com. There is a ton of Bettor baseball preview videos and insight, analysis, profiles, features, all that is being released today. So you go to the website, bettorsports.com. You might have to register if you have not. In fact, you will have to register, but it's totally free, just like an email address and a username, stuff like that. And then, boom, you're good to go. And Ray's got videos. Adam Ronis has videos. I've got some videos, other talented pieces here at BSN. We all got you covered leading up to the start of the 2023 season. Another thing I want to mention, and we won't spill the beans, but Ray, is today the day for your pitcher choice over at Fantasy Guru? Or is that coming up this week? Did I see like your big breakout dude for 2023?
Yeah, there was a question in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com. Someone asked if today was Christmas. And I said, well, yeah.
I don't know if it's that great. Right?
No, it's pretty close. Yeah, the breakout article is scheduled to open up today. Okay. I'm about 4,000 words into it. I'll finish it up after the show here today. So that, yeah, barring something unforeseen happening on my side of things, we will have the breakout pitcher released today. A lot of guys in consideration.
I'm not going to get names because I know this is subscriber stuff. This is why people should sign up. They get your insight for that. How many names like made the cut or that you seriously considered as your breakout candidate?
That's a good question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
A lot of them.
13 names were in consideration. And basically, for those people that don't know, every year I try to predict someone that not a lot of people are talking about that's really going to surge. And on the pitching side of things, my criteria is it used to be it's basically outside the top 200, okay, in ADP. Now, there's been a couple of guys that have squeaked in at like 190s. Yeah. I technically said 175. I set that as a baseline. Then like Jeffrey Springs is on the list, and he's someone I had to remove because it's 176. And he emerged last year. So that I go through the whole criteria. So that name 13-person list, like half those guys are removed pretty quickly because of reason A or B or C, Kyle. So it's down to like 6 guys really. And I go through the process of kind of why, and I compare them to each other. And we're basically trying to find that guy with an ADP again around 200 or higher that will give you a season that's going to make you think, well, that guy probably should have been an SP2 or 3.
And it's almost like Venn diagram-esque. Like you have these standards you want pitchers to hit.
Mhm.
And I guess whoever kind of lands in the middle of that Venn diagram of all the circles interlocking, that's kind of the guy you're looking for with that exercise, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll go through that, like these categories, like Kyle's talking about, and then we come up with that list of 6 names, and it's like, well, what are the pros and cons, and then make the decision. I think it's really tough because we saw this happen last year. The guy Pablo Sandoval was the runner-up last year. The guy that I went with last year was Tanner Houck.
Patrick
Patrick, thank you. Sorry, wrong.
Pablo,
Sandoval.
that would have been breaking news, right?
Not the panda. Yeah. Patrick was the runner-up. The guy that was chosen was Tanner Houck. And I said in the article that this is a tough call because he could end up relieving, and that's what he ended up doing.
Yeah.
And, when I started doing this back in 2014, bullpens, rotations, staffs were handled differently. The knowledge is way more widely dispersed now. So guys that used to have an ADP at 250, now their ADP is 175, right? It's just the market is become more challenging. So it's tough because a lot of these guys that end up on the list, it's like, well, is this guy going to be in the rotation? Well, this guy's dealing with some kind of physical situation. He threw 80 innings last year. How many is he going to throw this year? It's getting tougher and tougher because of the way teams handle their pitchers anymore.
So again, if you sign up for the baseball product over at Fantasy Guru, you not only get the preseason stuff, this article Ray's mentioning, which is the eagerly into, at least for one person, it's Christmas Day.
Yeah, well, many people. Well, to go through it, just quickly to go through it. 2014, Corey Kluber was the hit. His ADP was 235. He won the Cy Young Award. Okay, that was a huge one. Missed on Shane Green because he got hurt after a couple of starts. Hit on Kyle Hendricks. Hit on Aaron Nola. Hit on Jamison Taillon. Missed on Marco Gonzalez, but he won 16 games, 150 strikeouts, so still pretty good.
Yeah.
Missed on Ryan Yarbrough and missed on Zach Eflin. So we've
We
had.
got to turn things. This is the year, Ray. This is the year.
Yeah, this is the year. We got to turn things around here. So I'm down to 2 names. I'll be honest with you, I'm down to 2 names, and I don't know who it's going to be. I've got 2 names, and I'm going to spend the next 4 hours after the show digging that last little step in to make the decision.
I'm holding Ray up from the big decision. I'm like the Grinch here on Christmas. One more hour, Ray. One more hour to go, and then I'll let you finish up that piece, okay? Divisional discussion. We start with the NL East today. And as we always like to begin here on a Friday, or excuse me, on a Monday. Let's not jump to the end of the week just yet. Divisional odds is where we begin. Now, before we dig into this NL East and Braves and Mets and all this good stuff, quickly, Ray, we just got breaking news, NFL fans. This is something that probably needs to jump in. So what's the breaking news?
Huge news. A guy that's been a star in this league, a guy who got kicked out of this league, a guy is now coming back into this league. Jaguars wide receiver Calvin Ridley has been granted reinstatement. So he's good to go now. It looks like he'll be obviously with the Jaguars. He'll have a chance to be active in week number 1 for this team. Thumbs up. Missed the season, missed all that time. So that's something to think about. But Calvin Ridley, another weapon for Trevor Lawrence to have at his disposal in 2020.
Yeah, sometimes guys are made an example of. I kind of think this was one of those cases, Ray, where the whole new Wild West landscape of wagering and DraftKings and FanDuel and, all these spots within stadiums even that you can gamble. And the NFL says, hey, every sport says this. We don't want our guys participating in this stuff. And you can sit there and say, dude, it was $150. And that's what it was. It was something, or maybe it was $300, whatever. It was like one day.
Right.
But Ray, I think this is telling everybody, we're making a statement here. This is a young guy who was not a superstar, but a very good player, up and comer, everything, kind of a big piece of the franchise puzzle in Atlanta. And the NFL came down and gave him a pretty rough hit here. And some may, hey, well, the punishment didn't fit the crime compared to some of these other crimes we've got in the league. But I think the NFL saw this as a chance to make sure they nip this in the bud, and everybody has to think twice, or at least understand what they're getting into if they want to play that side of the world, if you will.
Yeah. And I mean, I totally agree with that. That's probably their line of thinking. It's a tightrope, right? Because the league's in bed with DraftKings and FanDuel and the DF. It's a tough thing. But, we were talking to Cody Decker over the weekend, former baseball player. And he's like, I've been in all kinds of football stuff, but we never did baseball. Like there's a line that they, we can play fantasy football, but as baseball players, we can't play fantasy baseball. So Ridley kind of made an example. You're right. It wasn't for $300 million or $300,000. It was a relatively small amount. But the good news for the Jaguar side, because they took this chance, they made the trade for him, not knowing. This is a best case scenario for the Jaguars. They know now. That gets him with the team all off season. He gets to work and figure everything out. And huge addition to the offense for the Jaguars.
Yeah. Over the World of Soccer, EPL, there's a guy named Ivan Toney. He's one of the best scoring forwards in the English Premier League. They've got like 264 instances of him wagering on soccer matches.
Wow.
And he's already, supposedly, according to reporting, he's come out and said, yep, I did this. And now we're just awaiting. And he's probably looking at least 6 months and probably more if there's anything that crosses into his team and his, exact league and stuff. But that's another case. And that is a sport that, hell, they've got advertising about gambling on their jerseys. So, and it'll come to the NFL and baseball and all that stuff. But they are trying to keep it from occurring before it becomes too much of an issue. Okay, Calvin Ridley reinstated. Let's get back to the NL East. And Ray, this is a competitive division, and you can tell it in the odds. I mean, for the most part, it's a coin toss between the Mets and the Braves. This is the only division like that. In all these other divisions, I guess the NL West is close to this with the Padres and the Dodgers. But for the most part, Ray, we've got the Mets at plus 130, the Braves at plus 140. The Phillies are plus 370. And they actually went out and got Trey Turner. They went out and added Marlins plus 3,000. Washington is plus 20K. When I look at like preseason wagering, Ray, I can make a case for the Mets, the Phillies, or the Braves. To me, none of those odds are really worth even getting involved in with these three teams.
Yeah, they're pretty boilerplate. And again, I always draw this example of when we've been talking baseball this year. The White Sox last year, on paper, they had it all, and they were just injuries. And so, we talked about the Dodgers. Their odds look great, but the Padres are coming, et cetera, et cetera. At this point, with so much that can change with injuries, even though we're only 3 weeks from the start of the season, you better be getting a little bit of odds or it's getting a little tight.
Yeah. In terms of win totals, Mets and Braves, 94.5. Both of them, 94.5. Phillies are 88.5. Marlins, 76.5. Ray, I'm always most entranced by the team at the bottom. Washington, 60.5. Are they that bad? I think they might be. 60.5 victories. It sounds crazy to take an under, but I kind of feel like they're under 60 victories.
Well, it's tough because they've got a lot of, you mentioned Carter Keyboom. They actually kind of need Carter Keyboom. And he hasn't done anything. You look at this lineup. Kyle, Joey Meneses was great last year. Keibert Ruiz, I think, is a really up-and-coming catching prospect. Lane Thomas is just a guy. Corey Dickerson may not even be a guy anymore. Heimer Candelario, Dominic Smith, a lot of hope for a rebound, but still, last couple of years, rough. CJ Abrams, a lot to like with him, but he's a youngster with no experience. Victor Robles, Luis Garcia. You look at the rotation, you can make a case that their number 2 pitcher is Patrick Corbin, who we talked about, like Josiah Gray's up and coming.
Great. Under, Ray. This is under 60.5.
Yeah, Trevor Williams is nobody. Patrick Corbin is terrible. Kate Cavalli, Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray. We can dream on those guys, but it certainly looks like
they're fun dreams. Honestly,
absolutely.
Ray, they're fun dreams, aren't they?
Absolutely, yes. But all consolidating this year, that would be a shock. So this team and then their bullpen: Finnegan, Carl Edwards, Hunter Harvey. Yeah, they may not get there. They might be a 105 loss team.
Best record in baseball. 2 of the top 4, Mets and Braves. Mets are second on the best record in baseball. Houston's number 1. Mets at plus 550, Atlanta 600. Phillies are plus 2,200. I'd love to see what that Phillies number would be if Bryce Harper were back. Maybe it's more like 1,500, but it's 2,200 now. Fewest wins in baseball. Washington is the second pick at plus 280. Ray, I think the A's are actually better than the Nationals. I think the A's can get more wins than Washington. So again, at plus 280 odds, I don't mind that for Washington with the fewest wins in baseball.
It's tough because, again, like a guy like Patrick Corbin, they can't trade him, and they're paying him $25 million. They just got to go with I don't think they have the depth. I think that, again, those trio of arms, Cavalli, Gore, and Gray, are really interesting. Do the A's have 3 guys like that? No, but I agree with you. The A's,
If you put the Washington and Oakland rotations together,
right,
you can get 5 good pitchers,
right?
Maybe 6 good pitchers.
Right.
Now they'd all be under, nobody's a star,
right?
But there'd be some talent with that 6-man rotation if we could combine the two.
Yeah. I mean, I think I also have to look at it. The A's as well have had a history of having decent teams with, record-wise with bad players. Like the Nationals just don't seem to be going in the right direction. I haven't thought of it in that context. I guess I'd go the Athletics, but it's close. It's not
as a better team.
As a better team, but it's close.
Yeah. I don't think it's that close.
Really?
I think the A's are at least 5 wins better.
Okay.
Like I can see this Washington team, Ray, win like 56 games.
Alex Colomé, Erasmo Ramirez, when you start digging into it, it's like they're just grasping here. No one wants to be there right now. They're not paying anyone right now. It could be different in a couple years, but yeah, it's likely to be very rough this season because Steven Strasburg, another name, like he doesn't look like he's going to pitch, so they're in trouble.
Individual talent, there's loads of it, and you can see that in the MVP and Cy Young odds. Acuna is the second pick for NL MVP at plus 850. Trey Turner 1200, Austin Riley 1500, Alonso's 1500. Matt Olson's in there at 22, Lindor 25, Schwarber 25. I will say the worst bet is Bryce Harper at 35. Like, Ray, you can't win the MVP with 115 games, can you?
Well, you could, but again, he's going to have to hit 330 with 28 home runs and lead him to the they're going to have to be 8 games under 500.
There literally would have to be no other candidates.
Well, they'd have to be like 8 games under 500, and then they put like 700 winning percentage with him back. I mean, it's possible, but it's extremely unlikely, and I would not place money on it.
Cy Young, these are only guys out of the NL East as we open up our divisional preview. Alcantara's plus 450. That is actually the lead pick for National League Cy Young is repeat. Now, it's never smart to repeat, to bet on the repeat. So I don't like that, Ray, simply because history is so against Sandy Alcantara. The other odds, Verlander's 600, Scherzer's 800, Strider's 950, Fried 1,000. Nola and Wheeler are both 12,000, and Kyle Wright is actually 3,000. Is there a name whenever you say talent and odds that kind of fits together for you if you had to make that call on NL Cy Young?
I'm actually really partial to Max Fried. I think that I'm very partial. I think he's going a little bit undervalued in the fantasy game because he's not a 200 strikeout guy. So I think that holds him back a little bit, but his ratios are strong. He's got a great team. But if I was placing the bet, I'd take the extra 200 for the plus 1,200. I'd go Aaron Nola. I mean, he throws 200 innings every year. He gets 220 strikeouts every year. They got the team every year. He seems like a guy that's due a 17-win season. Like, where's this at? Like, it seems like it's going to. So I'd go Aaron Nola with the plus 1,200.
Rookie of the year, Kodai Senga is the best bet out of the NL East, 900. Cade Cavalli, who Ray was talking about with the Nationals staff, 1,200. Andrew Painter's 1,500. Don't make that bet, anybody. Don't say, I'm getting a bargain here. Even if the news is great on Andrew Painter, that number may fall to 1,300. I don't think it's going to I got such a deal at 1,500. I like Francisco Alvarez at 1,800 here. And I keep running into a brick wall. Like, we're doing that NL auction labor a couple of days ago, Ray, and he went for $1.
Yeah.
And now he's only UT. I get it, but he'll probably get catcher eligibility at some point. And you get him in an NL only league for $1. That kind of hitter, I'll take him at plus 1,800. Brett Beatty also on here at plus 1,500 or 2,500. Sorry.
I think the situation with Alvarez is fascinating because he played 3 games at DH and 2 at catcher. So if your league is going by the traditional rules, he's only UT eligible. A lot of leagues don't care. This guy was asking me a question. I said, Bryce Harper's an outfielder. He didn't play 8 games in the outfield last year. How's he qualified? So if he qualifies at catcher, I think the outlook for Alvarez is completely different. If he doesn't, and your league is not one of the leagues that says it's 5 games in season or 10 games in season, if it's 20 games in season to get a new position, Francisco Alvarez could be a UT only option for 35 games with the Mets so you have to play this based upon your league. Tremendous bat, tremendous power, and long term, he will be a pretty dynamic option. We have to figure at the catcher spot, but the rules kind of get in the way probably in the fantasy game from that occurring this year.
Finally, statistical categories. These would be MLB leaders, not National League. This is the whole scope of baseball. Pete Alonso's the third choice for home runs, plus 900. Schwarber's 1,100. Austin Riley, 1,300 on Austin Riley. Matt Olson's not bad either, 1,900. Acuna, 2,500. Hoskins is 6,000. Acuna's kind of interesting, Ray, because we've seen it before, but last year we didn't see it. Where do you stand on his power just kind of evaporating last season? His slug fell like over 100 points last year, and here he is plus 2,500 to lead baseball in home runs.
I mean, it's concerning. I mean, you look. It's so funny. It's concerning, but where's the concern in the fantasy game?
There isn't any. I think everybody's saying, "Oh, it's just the mysterious coming back from an injury. It wasn't right." You know, we thought it was going to affect steals. Right. That was the story. Right. Oh, stolen bases. Well, he stole fine, but his power just disappeared, which nobody really expected.
His slugging percentage was league average. His isolated power mark, which is basically the oomph you put into the baseball, was half the previous 2 years and below league average. Okay. His launch angle went from 18% to 18% to 11% last year. So he didn't get the ball in the air. He didn't drive the baseball at all. Now, he still hit the ball extremely hard, but his exit velocity was down 1.5 miles. His barrel rate was down about 5%. Like, this was, in the grand scope of schemes, it was fantastic. Comparing Acuna to himself previously, it wasn't the same guy. And so I'm not surprised he's going number one overall, but I kind of am. Like, you know, I'm more than willing to say, look, the knee, the swing, the mechanics got out of joint. Okay. But I'm not placing a bet he's leading baseball in home runs. Like, I think that, you know, he's hit 40 before. I'd be hoping he gets to 30 this year. There's no way I'm placing a bet on him hitting 45.
He's plus 2,500 again to lead baseball in homers. He is plus 600 to lead baseball in steals. Not a bad payoff there. Trey Turner, Ray plus 1,400. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I wouldn't say, obviously he's not the best choice, but 1,400 kind of screams to me with Trey Turner and stolen bases.
Yeah, I think he leads baseball in steals since 2016. You know, and I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where the guy hits 300, he gets on base at a 350 clip. He's going to hit leadoff. He's going to get 700 plate appearances for a good team. I mean, that's yeah, right? Like that. So, and it's, you know, could one of these guys, could Ruiz or one of these other guys steal 50 bases? Yeah. Is Turner likely to steal 50? No. But could he? I think he could. So that's, yeah, for all the reasons for how great he is, the team and all that kind of stuff, his history, I don't have a problem placing that bet.
Yeah. Chisholm plus 2,000, Michael Harris 2,500, Starling Marte 2,800. That's stolen base leader. Finally, saves leader. Edwin Diaz is plus 500. Iglesias is 1,200. Kyle Finnegan's 2,500. Don't think we were just talking about the Nationals and how awful they are. Sir Anthony Dominguez 5,500. Now again, only one guy is going to win this, but I was kind of surprised how low the Dominguez odds are. I guess they have Kimbrel and obviously Soto hanging around, so that's kind of why we can't get too fired up about Dominguez in the bullpen.
Yeah, and the team has basically said they're not really sure. You know, Jose Alvarado's there too. He might get some opportunities. So they've got 4 dynamic arms in the back end for the Phillies. I think Dominguez is the favorite, and most people at this point expect him to lead the team, obviously, in saves. But, you know, the pull is strong with Craig Kimbrel. Let's face it. If, you know, Kimbrel gets out of whack, he's a disaster. But when he's locked in, and you look at the back of that ball card, and it's 40 saves, 35 saves, 40 saves, that's a strong pull for a manager.
So those are some of the odds that might wet your whistle. As we go into the year with the NL East, we'll be talking more about the NL East throughout the week, off-season storylines for each squad, maybe some underrated assets you can pick up from those 5 teams. We'll be focusing on that along with third baseman throughout the show all week long. When we come back, timeout from baseball. Got a lot of football. Told you about Calvin Ridley, reinstated. Derek Carr signing with the Saints for 4 years. NFL Combine stuff. Franchise tag stuff. It's all coming your way next on the Bettor Sports Network.
Let's talk a little NBA because I found it interesting yesterday with those that are now all of a sudden going to be critical of Nikola Jokic and what he's accomplishing this year for the Denver Nuggets. As Denver is the top seed in the Western Conference right now, they've won 44 games so far during the course of the NBA regular season, and Nikola Jokic is well on his way to being a three straight time NBA MVP in the regular season. He's been remarkable. He's averaging a triple-double, nearly 25 points per game, over 11 rebounds a game, and 10 assists per game. His remarkable accomplishments have really poo-pooed or knocked down the idea of voter fatigue, which was a huge part of the conversation coming into the NBA regular season, thinking that there have only been three men, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Larry Bird, that have ever won 3 consecutive NBA regular seasons. Mind you, you could never give that to Nikola Jokic, because think about the historical ramifications it would be in the NBA. LeBron's never done it. Michael's never done it. How could Nikola Jokic do it? And then you get this, and it's the case of the hot take world that we're in, or I need something to say, or let's think of a different angle to approach a topic. But the idea that Nikola Jokic is a stat padder is complete and utter nonsense. I mean, you've had one person after another come out saying Nikola Jokic is not looking at his stat line during the course of an NBA game. He's not focused in on whether or not where his rebounds are, where his assists are in any particular game. He's having an historic season. He's shooting nearly 64% from the floor. He is being economical in the way that he's going about his business offensively. He's distributing the basketball. He's also been a willing rebounder as well. Why be critical of something that we're watching, which is historic? We're seeing him do stuff that no other NBA player has ever been able to go out there and accomplish. So as we go and look at Jokic, and he is going to be the MVP. It's not going to be Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's not going to be anybody else that you want to throw out there. As we watch the brilliance of the Denver Nuggets, and everyone looks at the Western Conference and wants to look at teams like the Phoenix Suns if Kevin Durant is healthy, or the Los Angeles Clippers, or the Sacramento Kings, or, let's be honest, the very, very immature Memphis Grizzlies, and everybody wants to pick anybody else but the Denver Nuggets to come out of that West and get to themselves to the NBA Finals, even throwing the Golden State Warriors into the equation as the defending NBA champs. Well, I think we have to have a lot of respect for what Denver's been able to do this regular season, and a healthy respect of going into the postseason. And I also think we have to have a respect of what Nikola Jokic is accomplishing as well, and not be critical just for the sake of being critical. That, to me, is utterly nonsense. For more content like this, check out Bettor Network at TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and also on YouTube.
Lunch Money, where we don't take your money, we make you money. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Here, making its way onto the Bettor Sports app. And I gotta say, it's going to be a fun one. This is something brand new, and I don't know of any other place that's really offering this. Now, it is a World Wide Web with all sorts of other things you can do. So maybe somebody out there is doing this. I have not come across this. When you listen to us via the app tonight at 7 o'clock, so if you got your app, at 7 o'clock tonight, we are now offering something. This is the premiere of the Bettor Cast. The Bettor Cast. What is that? Well, tonight we will invite you to tune in to a little conference championship action. March Madness is here. Tonight we have the Southern Conference Championship. It's going to be Furman and Chattanooga. And every night's going to be different, but tonight's that game. What we are doing is we invite you to join us. And as you watch the game via TV or however you consume your sports these days, we will be asking questions about the game, about the teams, asking you to make predictions. We'll be doing trivia. We will score all of this. And at the end of this Bettor Cast, you can win $100 to the Bettor Sports Shop. And tonight we're doing some college basketball. I think tomorrow night is another conference championship game. Wednesday night, let me see, it's an NBA game, Dallas and New Orleans. So this is, in effect, a way to kind of play along with other viewers, other listeners, to watch a game while you answer questions and maybe have a little fun conversation, kind of like sitting on the bar, at the bar, via the app. So it's something brand new that we're starting here at the Bettor Sports Network. So we invite you to check it out tonight, 7 o'clock. And again, $100 gift card, at least for this contest, to the Bettor Sports Shop. So tune in, jump in, maybe check it out, see if it's something you'd want to do. Now that's on the app. Again, that will only be for those who fire up the app and watch. On the website, Edward Rouse of the Monday Night Rants, he'll be going on the website at 7 o'clock, and he'll probably be referencing stuff, but get used to that. I think we're going to be doing a lot of that better casting, and Ray, that is yet again a kind of unique, innovative, and brand new way to consume sports, to enjoy sports. Something that we can do here is, obviously we don't have the rights to these games, but you can sit there. We can ask questions about what's going to happen in the game. Is there going to be a 3-pointer, 5 3-pointers in the next 5 minutes, things of that ilk, and you can have some fun, watch a scoreboard, see how your points are totaling up, almost like a trivia night there at the Bettor Sports app.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be innovative. We're trying to push the needle. We're offering it at a good price, free. So, everyone should, I hope, tune in and get a sense of what's going on. And I'm speaking for the company when I can't, but I am. If you see something you like, don't like, let us know. I mean, that's, tell us, because we ultimately we want to provide what you want. And for years we heard, for years we heard, oh, we don't want to pay money. Well, we're free now. Here we go. Like, we're doing it. So what do you guys want? Right. So I'm interested to see how it goes. It's something new, something different, unique. And I always love that we're willing to push that bar here at BSN.
Yeah, it's the Bettor Cast, and tonight's the premiere. So again, that's going to be the Southern Conference Championship game. You got Furman and Chattanooga. 7 Eastern is the start. And let's see, like Big East game we got coming up later this week. I think we're going to do XFL on Saturday night. Now Sunday, Academy Awards Bettor Cast. So to give you a reason, I mean, we're not going to get the host slapped every year by a big-time Hollywood movie star.
Probably not.
So we can't count on that excitement. So instead, we have the Bettor Cast. So we'll be like, I guess, taking Oscar. Not bets, because you don't have to bet anything. You don't have to put any money down. But you can make predictions on the Oscars. So that's going to be fun Sunday. Additionally, speaking of the Academy Awards and the Oscars, Ray and I think this is going to air Thursday this week. Ray and I will not have a Thursday edition of Lunch Money. What instead we will bring you, this should be fun. Ray and I are going to invite some other personalities to join us, me and him. We call it the Hollywood Highlights. And what we're going to do is, we got a few guys who are going to jump in. I think, I don't have the list in front of me, but like 4 or 5 other hosts going to join us. We'll have like 7 or 8 categories. Ray's got a category. I got a category. And we're going to do like all-time Oscars. Kind of have some fun with our own rankings. So that's going to air Thursday from 12 to 2 right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Ray, what category are you handling for the Hollywood Highlights?
I am handling the most important category that we have.
Okay.
The one that has the highest level of competition for the spots. And that is the best movies featuring animal performances.
Real life animals?
Well, that was the thing. That was the way that I chose to attack this.
Okay.
There will be no Bigfoot. There will be no Godzilla, no King
Planet
Kong.
of the Apes?
That was a debatable. You have to wait and see, because that's, chimpanzees and monkeys and gorillas, orangutans. But yeah, they have to be actual creatures. No Gojira or anything like that will be on the list.
I will be handling something I'm really looking forward to. Top 5 James Bond movies. Which my list may differ from many. I'm a James Bond fanatic. I have watched pretty well every James Bond movie at least 10 times.
Wow.
And those newer ones are the 10s. I mean, the old ones, the ones from 20, 30, 40 years ago, I've probably watched 20 a piece. So I'm going to do Bond flicks. Ray's going to do animals. Edward Rouse, I think, is doing Tarantino. That'll be fun. Joey Wright is going to do Spielberg movies. Nick Durst, comic books as movies. And then we got a few others. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a load of fun as we kind of get you set for the Academy Awards. And, hey, we know people like gamble on the Academy Awards and everything. So we're going to do a special, kind of have a fun one. And that's probably something we'll revisit throughout the year, because we do all sorts of movie categories and have fun kind of talking about other things here on the Bettor Sports Network, which, again, as Ray noted, sometimes people want to break from all the heavy duty sports. So we give it to you. So that's going to air on Thursday. It will be available on demand then leading up throughout the week, and probably even after the Academy Awards, you can hunt that down. So really looking forward to that. Man, we got so much stuff going on. We've got the baseball preview, which is available now on the website. We've got that Hollywood highlights, which is coming your way on Thursday. And as we noted, we now have the Bettor Cast premiering tonight. So, I always want to say just a little bit of house cleaning. That was a lot of bit of house cleaning. I think it was.
There's a lot that needed to be brought up, Kyle.
There's a load of things. Fun, exciting times. Tell you what, let's take a break here, and we'll come back with the football. Kind of went through all the promotions that we've got taking place here on Bettor Sports Network. So we'll take a time out here, and then we'll dig into this football stuff, kind of going through some of the big combine storylines, although there's like one. It's Anthony Richardson. We got Derek Carr. He's got a team. He's joining the Saints. We got Calvin Ridley back in the NFL. Franchise tag decisions. We'll get to all of that next. I promise. Football coming your way next, right here on Lunch Money.
Talk sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. In golf, there's no hey, you can't walk the greens. You have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit. But it is fascinating watching him. So it gave me this thought, is he that skilled at golf? Or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else can you factor these athletes, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, and then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay. So LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's 3rd on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Bettor Sports Live, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand.
Now back to Lunch Money, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Here's Kyle and Ray.
We'll be back in as we make our way through this 3rd hour of Lunch Money on a Monday. Kyle Alfrink and Ray Flowers with you. I want to thank our producers, Heather Klein and Josh Winchester. A lot going on in the NFL. We had a busy weekend in Indianapolis. Combine, in fact, still kind of going on, starting to wrap up today. A lot of the media has probably moved on from the weekend that was, but certainly some things coming there. And we noted it last week heading into the Combine. When you throw this many people into the same spot and tell them to wine and dine and walk around for 4 or 5 days, you get news coming out of it. And one of the things we knew last week was Derek Carr was going to be in Indianapolis, kind of meeting with teams, figuring out where he fits. He missed it earlier. He's got a 4-year contract, $150 million with the New Orleans Saints. I was checking, Ray, over at DraftKings, the futures market for the NFL. Right. And right now, and I apologize, I don't know what the numbers were yesterday, before the Derek Carr signing. But right now, Ray, the Saints are the favorite in the NFC South at this very juncture. Let me get the exact numbers here. But they are a slight favorite. Let's see, divisional winner. Let's see, cycle down. New Orleans is our NFC South plus 140. Carolina plus 240. Tampa's 390. And Atlanta is 425.
Should Tampa Bay be ahead of Atlanta?
No.
Yeah. Right?
Not at all. Yeah.
Well, you said it earlier, the division, I mean, Tampa Bay was the winner and they didn't even finish 500 last year. It's a messy division. I don't know. We talked about it earlier with the discussion with Derek Carr going to the Saints. What does it mean? And who else do they bring in and what moves they make? They improved that position, the quarterback spot, but they still have work to do. So I don't know. Just don't be putting the money on Tampa Bay, folks.
I bet Carolina, let's say they get Garoppolo, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
I bet then all of a sudden it's like plus 150 Saints, plus
Changes
170 Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina still might be number 2, but because right now Carolina just doesn't have a QB. So that number at 240. And again, we're just talking about being the best of these 4 teams. 240 sounds pretty good, Ray, on Carolina right now, because they're gonna get some. Do you think they go more the veteran route, or are they drafting? Like, are they? I think they're kind of built for if they get a QB, Ray, I think they can immediately kind of saunter back into the playoffs.
Well, and they're Jimmy Garoppolo. We've talked about him so much. Everyone has, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a winner, and he's a pretty solid NFL quarterback. He's not great. He's pretty solid. He could turn a 7-win team to a 9-win team just himself, like legitimately. And they played some pretty good ball at times last year. And I think that they would love, ideally, because they were rumored to be talking to Carr and everything too. I think ideally they'd like to bring Garoppolo in, but they still might, even if they do that, draft a quarterback. I think that maybe they do both, Kyle, if they could.
Well, I think if you sign Garoppolo, Ray, and they got a lot of money, they could sign him, and then you don't have to trade up to get your QB. Because they're in that top, they can, and I say you don't have to trade up. I sit here as if, hey, all 4 of these guys are the same. Who cares? Teams don't treat it that way. Right. Okay. And that's on me. That's a screw up. But the Panthers are looking at this. They probably have 1 or 2 guys they really want. And so that's why you trade up to make sure you get that guy. But if you say, like, if you're sitting in that room, Ray, and like all your guys are in there and a third of the room likes this guy, a third of the room likes that guy, a third of the room, then you're like more apt to say, we'll just sit where we're at and kind of take what we can get, maybe.
Yeah, I think that to me makes sense. I don't know ultimately who's in charge of the room, right? But that theory to me, that line of thought does make sense.
Raiders, of course, they're not going to have Derek Carr. They chose not to have Derek Carr. They're in on Garoppolo. So that's some competition too for the Panthers. A couple of other things. We told you about Calvin Ridley. He's been reinstated by the NFL, so he will be back and ready to go for Jacksonville. Will he be drafted wide receiver 2, Ray? I mean, are people just going to say, hey, he's a top 20 wide receiver immediately?
I would be surprised if they didn't. So I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, maybe even top 15. That may be a little rich, but maybe. Because, I mean, you got the Lawrence thing.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good at the end of last season. So the people are getting a little excited about that Jacksonville offense. We've got a franchise tag on Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, tomorrow's the deadline. Reports saying the Cowboys have given it to Pollard. That's a lot of money. It's not like, running backs want contracts, like even more so than QBs. So Ray's not going anywhere, but of course he's coming off that knee injury. Mm-hmm. We're hearing Zeke Elliott could still be cut, and maybe he would then come back to the Cowboys. But right now that's pretty unstable. We've heard even draft picks. They might draft a guy in the first or second round. So that backfield right now for a fairly solid offense, and an offense where Mike McCarthy says, we want to run. Mm-hmm. We don't know who's running the football next year in Dallas, do we?
Well, not fully, no. And I think that the Pollard call, I mean, it's $10+ million, so it's a substantial amount of money. He will be involved, obviously. But do they want him touching it 18 times a week? Would he fare well doing that? Even if they do that, there's going to be, even if they run the ball 35 times a week like McCarthy wants, they're going to need 2 guys. Given the money, it's a 1-year deal with Pollard, and we'll see if they work out some kind of an extension. But it's 1 year, so they could still draft Robinson or something, But then you're talking about what are we really doing in the backfield? So I kind of think that giving the money to Pollard kind of says they're out on Robinson, but their head coach likes running backs, and so does their owner.
Yeah, definitely. So, and it worked well with them, Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
They went high for Zeke, and you have to say that was probably a hit. Now, franchise tag. Tomorrow's the deadline. So Daniel Jones, there's no contract right now. Now, as we noted last week, QBs all the time get franchised, and then they end up signing an extension. So a lot of times you can do this with QBs, and it almost just kind of increases your, the opportunity to build upon a contract. So the expectation is the Giants do that. Ray, that would mean Saquon Barkley doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
He would be a free agent. So that would be something to follow. Lamar Jackson, latest there, Ray, over the weekend was that there would be a non-exclusive franchise tag, which in effect says he's ours, but other teams can go to Lamar Jackson and say, hey, what about this as a contract offer? What about that? And if he were to sign that, say the Jets come to him and they give him the money he wants, he can sign that. And then, Ray, the Ravens can decide if they want to match it or not. I think there are also draft picks associated. So if the Jets want a Lamar Jackson or anybody wants him, they also have to give up draft picks. It's kind of like an easier trade, Ray, because you decide the money,
right?
And the draft picks are already by rule designated. So there's really no trade, but it almost works as a trade. You get them under contract and you give up draft picks to do it.
Yeah, remember too, it'll be interesting to see how the earlier news, and again, I don't know if it's 100 million guaranteed or 70 million guaranteed for Derek Carr. The report from Ian Rappaport was very confusing, but either of those numbers is, a third. That's Lamar Jackson wants 250 guaranteed. So, does he take that signing to heart and say, all right, I know I'm not twice as good as Derek Carr, so we'll see. But yeah, that is, that's not surprising that that's where it's going to come to. And it's basically, if I'm the Ravens, I'd probably say the same thing. We'd love to have you here. We're making you a fair offer. You think you're worth the moon? Go get it, kid. We'll see how it goes.
I'll answer your question, right? He does think he's twice as good as Derek Carr.
Okay.
Do you have any doubt on that?
Fair point, Kyle. Yeah.
Now, a couple of other big names in the news. Speaking of contract, did you see Deshaun Watson is supposedly open to a contract renegotiation? I guess he's finding that if I want to have good players around me, I shouldn't suck up 50% of the cap or whatever.
And remember, he only got paid $1 million last year.
Yeah.
It's all coming starting this year. But what was it, 230 million guaranteed?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
But and that even, I guess, hurts Lamar Jackson a bit more because they're going to be like,
dude's giving some
that's
back.
Not even a real contract.
Yeah.
It isn't. So I would suspect there will be renegotiation. That's why the contract was so outlandish with Watson, is it would totally tie the hands of the Browns to do anything. So they're going to have to change that contract. Also reports coming out of Indy this weekend that Derrick Henry is on the block. Ray, it makes total sense.
But
100%. You think anybody's making that trade? What's
the cost? Yeah.
What if somebody said a high second? Is he a free agent at the end of next year?
I believe he's a free agent next year.
I think he is too. And this always blows people's minds that Derrick Henry is second round pick. But I don't know if he gets a first round pick, right? Do you think he does for a year? Remember, we got a guy who's nearing 30 with a ton of mileage, and you get him for a year. I don't even think the team that trades for him, Ray, is interested in signing him. It's going to be like a win now move. You almost have to look at teams that are on the precipice, but they don't have a running back.
Right.
Those are the teams, Ray, that would be interested in Derrick Henry. And gosh, who is that?
Well, but even if it happens, it goes to the team, they trade for him. Like you're saying, what's their appetite to sign him? Because if he says, "Hey, I'll sign a 3-year deal for $14 million," cool. If he says, "I want a 3-year deal for $35 million," they're not doing that. So, the team trading for him is obviously going to have to be careful because it likely should be. He should basically be on 1-year contracts now, kind of thing. That's how the NFL works the running back position. So that second round pick sounds kind of stupid, but they may struggle to get that if we're being honest. Like really,
Ray, I could see Dallas doing this. It's a Dallas kind of move, is it not? Throw in Derrick Henry if we really want to run the football. I could see Dallas making that move. I could actually, let's say Lamar Jackson moves on, Ray. Baltimore would be changing everything. Everything. Like they don't have a quarterback. They don't have Lamar Jackson. They don't have Tyler Huntley. So maybe they'll say, hey, let's get a guy who can carry the football 300 times. So I could see them, and they'd get like picks for Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So they could give up one of those for Henry. Philly? Nah, I couldn't see Philly. Detroit, no. I mean, there's not a ton of spots like Carolina,
but
could maybe be interested in that.
I mean, I don't think the Chiefs do it. They've got Pacheco, but
the Rams sound like a team that would do it, right?
Yeah,
I can see the Rams doing it.
Did you love the report, by the way, that Baker Mayfield has gone the Niners' radar now because of Brock Purdy's elbow? Oh boy, your guy Baker Mayfield. But yeah, I mean, the problem with this is, let's go to the other side. What happens to the Titans when they trade him? I mean, what are they're telling their fans we're winning 5 games this year?
Yeah, it's rebuild.
Like it's just over.
Yeah, it's rebuild.
So how long does Tannehill stay around then? Is Tannehill the quarterback?
I might trade him too, man, or let him cut him. Yeah, it's
does he go to the Panthers?
Totally be in a real rebuild mode.
Yeah, and
when your team loses like they did down the stretch, Ray, don't you blow it up?
Well, and I mean, because again, the two big pieces are Tannehill and Henry, and they're getting a little older, and they've got big contracts. They're coming toward the end of those contracts. That's basically their offense, right? Really. So, are they going to extend those guys out and be good with them 3 years from now? No. So I mean, Malik Willis was hideous last season. So it's going to be a rough year if they move on from those two pieces anyway. But if they turn it over to Willis, it's going to get ugly for a team in the Titans that somehow always won football games the last few years. And we all said, I'm not really sure how they're doing that, but boy, did they do it.
Yeah. And again, no one likes this part of the business, but they should move on from Derrick Henry. And if you get a second round pick or a first round, you do it. That's the move you make as far as I'm concerned with that Tennessee franchise. Elsewhere, combine stuff. What actually happened? A lot of fast guys, a lot of guys who can jump, a lot of guys who can lift weights. That was kind of the thing. That's what it always is. But this year, Ray, I guess it was a little more of talking points because of Anthony Richardson, who, for those who don't watch the college game or follow the college game, he has always said, hey, my game's modeled after Cam Newton. And that's the kind of guy he is in terms of the ability to really gun it down the football field, and a guy who can really hurt you in the rushing game. Now, unlike Cam Newton, Anthony Richardson does not have big-time college football numbers. Remember, Cam Newton was like one of the best college quarterbacks we'd ever seen in the year that he won the national title at Auburn. Anthony Richardson in the SEC last year with Florida was 6-6. And he completed like 53% of his passes. But Ray, what the combine loves is a freak.
Yep, it sure does.
I think we've got video here. So let's take a look at it. This is from NFL Network. This is the authority time, Ray. This is what we get excited about. So we'll turn it over to NFL Network, and we can all bask in the speed that is Anthony Richardson. Here it is.
He is 6'4", 244 pounds. Sorry, 6'4 1/4. I mean, it's short.
Don't forget that.
Yep, 244 pounds, and he had the vertical of 40.5, a broad jump of 10.9, and here he is running a 40-yard dash, and oh my goodness!
Wow,
it is full Moses Malone. 4.44.
I don't think he'll be asked to do that a lot in his NFL career, but that's pretty impressive.
I think that's a one and done, by the way.
He says he wants to run it twice.
I would advise against that. I think you're good. The 4.44 at 244 pounds.
Impressive.
Fours are wild. Dang. That is. Well, we saw yesterday some LSU DBs ran in the 4.5s, and he ran away from them. So that would stand to reason. That's a real number.
Crazy.
I mean, that is some gator bait.
That is draft bait there. I think the official number came in at 4.43. Now, Ray, it's impressive. He's a big dude, man. The guy is ripped. That looks like a D end almost that's coming down. The other thing is when they show that angle of him running at you, he's not even running a straight line. Yeah, he could have been at like 4.38 for all I know, Ray, because if he just kept it straight. He also set the all-time record for the vertical jump and the broad jump. He was throwing at ease. So Ray, now here it is. Somebody's falling in love with that, right? Somebody's making this guy probably a top 6, top 8 pick.
Well, and he's not as ripped, all right. But Justin Fields is like 6'3", 230, pretty close in size, and he ran a 4.45. And I bring that up because obviously the comps with the speed and the athleticism and all that. But can you play quarterback? Like this is the quarterback position is not. It's one of the ones where I could care the least about a 40-yard dash time at quarterback. Like what? Like they even said on the broadcast. Well, he's not going to do that very often. No, he's never doing that. And it's like.
But we see Phil tear away from guys too, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And it's great. And there are people in Chicago that want him to give up the first round draft pick, the first overall pick, and they have Justin Fields. So it's great. And the dude's a monster. Like you said, Cam Newton comps. Let's do it. Let's go. Cam Newton was not a great passer, right?
Yeah.
So the youngster, I'm more concerned about, can he read a defense and can he make audibles at the line of scrimmage than does he have a lot of muscles and run fast? I mean, it's phenomenal what he did, but there's more to it than that.
And the quarterback field, and it's not stacked, but it's solid. There are 4 guys who, if you're looking for a quarterback and you're rebuilding, you're probably looking at 4 guys: Stroud, Young, Richardson, and then Will Levis of Kentucky. And for the most part, all those guys were fine. I will say, Ray, Bryce Young chose not to do anything this weekend. And from all reports, again, I didn't sit here and watch the entire quarterback. Okay, I'm just kind of going off some reporting here. But, Ray, it's like these other guys, these other 3 competitors at QB, all were out there. None of them screwed up. What we saw on the, the testing was good. We don't know about interviews. And that probably has more than anything else to do with whether teams fall in love with these guys, the interview process. But it's weird that, like, Bryce Young, who's with doesn't do anything, while these other guys are out there and saying, I'll take this challenge. I don't know what a team thinks of that. Like, don't you want a guy who's like, bring it on, man, let's do it? And you got competition. It's not like Bryce Young is, hey, he's number 1 and nobody's better than Bryce Young. This is not Andrew Luck. It's, hey, he's number 1, but these other guys are nipping at his heels. I just looked at that rate again. I don't know Bryce Young at all. Zero now. But like Ray, we talk about wanting competitors and guys who are out there. These other guys are good enough to do it. Why can't you go out there and do it?
Well, you also said it too. There's a lot to lose for some of these guys. If they look terrible, they don't hit the measurables. Maybe he felt that the other guys weren't going to excel. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think that if you're confident in your abilities and they're true abilities, not that you're Lamar Jackson, you think you're the best quarterback in football, like they're legitimate, you do it, you go for it. And, that's a discussion. I mean, there are 15 people involved in these discussions, right? From the player to the family to the agent, like this has all been thought out. No one's willy-nilly making these decisions,
Yeah.
But if I was the player, it would be very hard for me to hear my representation tell me you're better off not doing it. I would want to do it.
Yeah. So we'll see. They got to go through their pro days as well. So these are all things to follow. If you look at the current, and yes, you can bet on this stuff, the current DraftKings odds, Ray, Bryce Young is minus 250 to be the first QB off the board.
Yep.
Richardson is plus 250. Now, he was nowhere near that before this combine. So what does a combine matter? Hey, if nothing else, it changes the Vegas odds. CJ Stroud, who was the number 2 pick, is now 3rd at plus 400. Will Levis is plus 1,200. So that's first QB to be selected. And again, I think it's still trending in the direction of Young. But as we have said multiple times in the last 10 minutes, if somebody falls in love with any of these guys, they will pay the Bears price. The Bears have the number 1 pick. And there's another part here, Ray, because someone brought this up. What if the Bears don't get what they want? Mm-hmm. People think, oh, you have to trade that pick. I mean, you're not. And they take one of these guys. They take Bryce Young and then try to trade him. Because once you got the guy, maybe then the market changes a bit. I don't know. But that could be a possibility. But it would be so Bears-like to then be stuck with both Fields and Young.
Well, and we say it all the time in the fantasy game. I tell people, don't make it trade A, knowing you have to make trade B for it to work. But that would be a very Bears-like thing, given what we have seen in the recent
past. Pretty wild. Bryce Young is still the favorite to go number 1 overall. This is of all the positions, minus 200. Richardson, and this speaks, Ray, number 2 pick on the board, plus 300. Again, and nobody thinks, he's the best quarterback overall. This is like all just based off hype and combine numbers. And like the better players in this draft are defenders, but we know that people need QBs and they're going to go number 1. So that's just wild to look at. Young minus 200, Anthony Richardson plus 300. I think that's an absolute sucker bet. And then CJ Stroud is plus 450.
But we talk about all the time. I do in the fantasy game, saying don't draft off an ADP list, right? You have to draft based upon your team need. You position, do you need a category? And that's what you're talking about the NFL teams doing too.
Pretty wild. Much more to come on drafts. What are we, 6-7 weeks, end of April in Kansas City. And free agency will open up, I think, on the 15th of March. The franchise tag stuff, the final decisions have to be in by tomorrow. So a lot of moving and shaking coming up in the NFL, and we will follow all of it on Lunch Money. Okay, a couple more things to get to, Ray, before we sign off. Lunch Hunch. Do you have a long shot call? Maybe an Anthony Richardson prop? You want to hit us with?
No.
One of those?
I don't have one of those. Surprisingly enough, Kyle, I don't.
You'll probably get to that later in the draft season.
Right, when I got some time. I'm kind of going position by position or category by category, through things here. And so we're up to the victory total list. And who's the number one guy to lead the league in wins? It's Garrett Cole at 1,000, Justin Verlander plus 1,400, Shane McClanahan, Max Fried, and Julio Urias are all at plus 1,500. But if I'm placing a bet, going a little off the board here, I'm doubling that odd total. I'm going to plus 3,000. Who's going to lead baseball in victories this year? The Mariners' Luis Castillo. That team is trending. They're moving in the right way. Castillo throws innings. He goes deep into games. And the odds are they're triple Garrett Cole and they're double Shane McClanahan.
I like it. I just hope it doesn't end up like Barrios of last year.
Yeah.
I feel like a year ago I would have been saying, Barrios, there's your long shot call. And he was like,
don't do that, Kyle. Don't do that to me. Come on.
I was kind of surprised in that mixed labor league. Castillo was the 10th most expensive pitcher. He was pretty pricey up there.
What do we have? I've got him currently as pitcher number 12.
12, okay. And it was close. I mean, he was the only guy at $23. There were a lot of guys at 22 and 20. But Castillo did make the top 10. My lunch hunch, we have some soccer coming up in like 10 minutes. So, Ray, let me give you a little EPL, baby.
All right.
We have Brentford hosting Fulham. Both teams have been surprisingly good this year. Both teams promoted. Brentford's been up for a couple of years. Fulham was re-promoted this year. Both were expected to be 15th or lower. Right now, they're kind of middle of the pack, so they are doing better. They're facing off today. I'm going to play a draw here, plus 225. A draw between Fulham and Brentford is my call. Fulham's kind of run into a slight rut here. Brentford's playing well, but I think this screams like 1-1-2-2. So I'm going to go draw on that matchup in the EPL. Finally, we have dessert to go. And Ray, dessert to go today takes us to a man who has money, loads of it. I think he's worth like $200 billion. Is that right? Jeffrey Bezos?
I don't even know anymore.
It changes by the day with the stock market.
Yeah, 200 billion is what the report says. Yeah,
200 billion. So Jeffrey Bezos, when you have $200 billion, it's like, how do I get rid of all this? Right? That's like a problem.
It's a real problem. It really is a problem.
So, Ray, we have our first pictures emerging of Jeffrey Bezos' new $500 million yacht, a sailing yacht. Now, when people see this, we got an image.
Yeah.
Ray, you think yachts, you think fancy white things. This is more sail than yacht, right? Look at that thing.
It's a 417-foot sailboat, which is absurd. I didn't even know they made them that big, to be honest.
How big are those? Put that back up there if we can, Heather. How big are those masts?
Those masts, I mean, the report says it's 417 feet, right? So the masts have got to be 300?
Look at that thing.
I mean, almost the length of the boat, right?
Yeah, this looks like something the Onassis crew would have out in Greece.
They probably
like it's really old school money, isn't it?
Oh, it's got to be, yeah.
Now, there is a second yacht, Ray, that's a part of this. That has a helipad. So he has like a second yacht just to land on so that he doesn't have to deal with people, I guess. And he can just jump onto the real yacht.
But why not get a yacht that has like 4 levels and a dance floor and a club and a basketball court?
That thing has everything. Don't even doubt that thing has everything.
All right.
There's your Amazon boxes at work right there, everybody. Hope you're happy for the guy. We'll see you tomorrow on Lunch Money.